Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last day of January. Also, good morning to everyone that is so excited for Super Bowl 57 in Arizona. I can feel it. Philadelphia, Kansas City, the two number one seeds, the two guys that are going to probably finish 1-2 in the MVP. Wherever I went yesterday, people are like, I can't wait for the Super Bowl. Go Chiefs! I say that. I say that
Tinge of sarcasm.
I say that with a lot of sarcasm because I'm getting the sense that a lot of you are like on the Super Bowl this year. Well, you're not going to rain on my parade because I'm very excited about the Super Bowl.
They're going to watch. People are going to watch.
I don't know. I don't get why all of a sudden there would be this hesitancy of, now all of a sudden why you would not watch.
It goes back to where we opened the show. Yeah, and by the way, I didn't say this to you after the show. You were a lot more restrained than when you came into the.
I've learned
the building yesterday.
When I was younger, when the Cubs won the World Series, I was obnoxious that day. I was hammered. Jimmy, you're not on. I was hammered.
I'm glad I wasn't around you that day.
Oh my gosh,
it took me hours to get over.
Yeah, you know what? Even the year that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, I was really excited. You know what? I've learned. There's bigger things at the end of the road.
Sure.
This year, winning the Super Bowl. I mean, I was excited. But people are. It's the Super Bowl. We watch. Some watch for commercials. Some might be the first time you watched a football game all year because that's what you do in America. You watch the Super Bowl. But it's going to be probably a little bit muted after what happened this weekend and how exhausting yesterday was if you happen to be on social media and people wanted to talk about officiating.
Yeah.
Which is so exhausting. And there's people that continue to use the word rigged and everything else that goes into and the bad taste that were in your mouth. So I think that's probably a little bit of the football fan that watched Sunday's game and were upset with the officiating, that it left a bad taste in your mouth. And like, you know what? My football season ended. You guys enjoy that game a week from Sunday in Glendale, Arizona. But and here's the other thing that will happen. Is the brothers going against each other, which is great for the family. I mean, great for mom.
Yeah.
There's a lot of backstory to it of, Andy Reid was in Philadelphia. He had Jason Kelsey on his team, so he's aware of his brother. He drafted his brother when he got to Kansas City. I know the Kelsey storyline will be, beat down and people will get tired of that. Just, I don't know. It's for some, it is a must watch. For others, it's like, my football season ended on Sunday. And I guess that's fine. There's probably not the draw of, you don't have two teams that are going after their first Super Bowl.
Right.
There's not, oh my gosh, blank quarterback could win his first Super Bowl as the team wins their first Super Bowl. But don't fret, people. We have plenty of time to talk about Super Bowl 57.
Well, we were talking about this yesterday. When your team loses in the playoffs, it's hard for you to get fully amped up the following week to watch more playoff football. I was using my very rare example of 2018 because the Bears aren't in the postseason a lot.
Hold on. Did you just slip something in there? I think you meant to say fully, Fully. I believe you went because he is the rage, fully, Foley. Just checking.
Fully.
Yeah.
We'll get to Ed. But, like that following week, I couldn't watch the Eagles-Rams game. I wasn't interested. I was still sulking. I was still like, we should be there. My team should be there. The team that I root for should be there. Man, club dub, that was fun. And now it's over. I don't know what to do. My life has no meaning. But you know what? I ended up watching that dumpster fire for Super Bowl. And I went in not thinking it would be bad. I'm like, Patriots, Rams, this could be a lot of fun. So my point is, for the Bengals fans out there, even the Niners fans, for all of them that are saying, yep, not going to watch Super Bowl. The NFL's rigged. My team was on the receiving end of being jobbed. Well, the good thing is there's a week to sort of decompress, to collect your thoughts, and also to arrange your Super Bowl viewing options. Because I would say 9 out of 10 of you will be fully tuned in. because it's what we do as Americans.
They always watch. My dad used to say that every year when the Cowboys were eliminated, back when it was more of a shock that they were eliminated. I'm not watching the Super Bowl. Then the Super Bowl would roll around, and guess what? He was watching the Super Bowl with all of us.
What else are you going to do that day?
I've never said I'm not going to watch. Yes, the outcome wasn't what I wanted Sunday, but I'm still going to watch because it's the Super Bowl.
What else is on TV that day?
It's the last football game of the year.
The Bud Bowl no longer exists.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Is the Puppy Bowl, do they take a hiatus once the actual game starts?
Puppy Bowl is alternative programming for the pregame show.
Right.
And very enjoyable.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never tuned in to see if it was going on during the game because, I mean, even on a commercial break, you got to watch commercials. Like, seriously, like what kind of TV is going on from like 5 to 9?
Lassie.
Oh, you don't say.
Lifetime movies?
Which 3 different times it aired after the Super Bowl. People might not know that. Now
I did not know that.
They might also not know that Travis and Jason are brothers.
But you will. If you didn't know.
Oh, you will. I mean, it's the two number 1 seeds, the 2 best teams in football this year. And it's the 2 guys at quarterback that are going to finish probably 1-2 in the MVP. I mean, what else do you want? But I do know I have a theory that we will get to a little bit later. But welcome in, everybody.
Just bebopping and scatting all around us, aren't you? Just having a good time with this.
Yeah, man, this could turn out to be a pretty good sports year for me. I think so. I'm very optimistic. I have growing optimism of
talking
my
about
team
23.
on the north side of Chicago.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I picked out my Cubs trips. So I got that done. So I'm like thinking, you know what? This might be a playoff team for the Cubs this year.
Are you getting Verse to get on board with that?
He will get on board.
Okay.
He will get on board.
Will Bishop agree with that?
I don't know. I can't make people do something they don't want to do. But you also have to look at the division the Cubs are playing in.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a great point.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is the last day of January. It is the 31st of January. So celebrate accordingly, however you do, because the next month is kind of a slog. You have the Super Bowl, pitchers and catchers reporting, in the Daytona 500. But other than that,
in college baseball.
Yeah. But February is kind of like a month because then you get all excited for March, which turns into be one of the best sports months of the year. Whole gang is here. You have a chance a couple of times today for the last time to win part of my booty. My booty is going to go away.
And thanks to everyone for playing. Everyone's gotten behind it, very excited about it. Even yesterday, the enthusiasm was still there. So
I met one of our listeners, our first winner yesterday. Stopped in to pick up his money.
They got behind that booty.
I thought we paid in cash. We actually have a check.
It's a check?
Who writes checks? And if we write checks, how come we don't give winners like the gigantic check?
Yeah, the big check.
We just give it looked like it was a check out of somebody's checkbook.
Oh, really? So it looked like a personal check.
Yeah, why don't we just give cash?
Yeah, I don't know.
People like cash.
You know, wasn't money order?
Because then you don't know what to do with the check.
Yeah, don't we have like a little petty cash drawer? Should have just a little petty cash drawer.
That'd be a lot of money to be holding in that petty cash drawer.
Speaking of, don't tell mom or babysitters
come in the front door.
Yeah.
So today is your last chance to win part of my booty. Before I tell you about a little excitement in my little niche of Omaha, the lineup brought to you by the Roof Rees of John Higgins Weather Guard, who Higgy last night was working in Austin when the Baylor-Texas game. So I think this is the rumor on the streets, is that Higgy is working Kansas State at KU tonight down in Lawrence.
Nice.
That's a heck of a schedule, which is now starting kind of odd because he's had this kind of schedule for a long time. And quite simply, good basketball coaches want the best officials on their game.
Yep.
And John Higgins is one of the best officials in college basketball. And so his travel schedule just got kind of, we brought it up yesterday briefly because he went from the West Coast to doing a noon Eastern tip in West Lafayette. Last night it got brought up during the Texas game, and they put it on the screen. So I'm curious on why now people are catching on to that, because it's not only John Higgins, it's a lot of college basketball officials because they're independent contractors.
Yeah.
So we'll dive into that a little bit later. But Higgy brings us our lineup, brought to you by the Roofers at John Higgins Weather Guard. Sam McEwen's going to stop by at 7:30. We'll get his thoughts on any takeaways he had from Terrence Knight and Ed Foley speaking yesterday in Lincoln. BC joins us, Brian Christopherson, and then Andy Kendi as well. But I don't know what was going on in your neighborhood last night, But my little niche of Omaha, whoa, we had some news. It first started. Have either one of you been to the Grover Street Arena, or about 61st and Grover,
Okay,
the ice rink?
Has it always been called the Grover Street Arena?
No.
Okay, because when I saw the post last night, that looks familiar, and so I'm trying to remember what it was even called. But yes, I feel I've been there a very long time when I was younger. Anyway, to answer your question.
So last night, you have 5 to 6 year olds are practicing, and I saw the picture. The great photographer Brad Williams
Mhm.
is there, and it's his kid practicing. And coaches, kudos to the coaches, and I apologize. I wish I knew their names. We give them some credit on the air. There was water leaking through the roof. A pipe had broken, and then the ceiling caved in. Fortunately, the coaches realized, something's not right,
Yeah.
and they got their kids away from that part of the ice and basically off the ice, and then that little part of the roof caved in.
Right.
So that happened, not very far from where I was. And then before I shut her down last night, we had a police shooting at 53rd and Center, and it's at the Dino's Storage Center right there, if you're familiar with that part of Omaha. And there was an incident where 2 officers were shot. They are in stable condition. Todd Schmatter, I saw his late night. It was past midnight because this happened about 11 o'clock last night. Said they are doing well, but they are in stable condition. And then the suspect is dead. So all of a sudden, my little part of Omaha made a lot of news yesterday, either for the good or the bad. But good to hear that the officers are in stable condition, and also good to hear that the coaches very cognizant of this isn't not right. When you have water, a pipe breaks, and you got water streaming through the roof.
Right.
Like, this isn't going to be good.
And I'm glad you brought up Brad Williams because I saw some of between the Omaha scanner reports and Brad's photography. It reminded me of a very smaller version of the Metrodome. And they started having their roof collapse. It's like, oh gosh, here's that. And I will forever be grateful for Fox to already have their cameras in there, getting ready for the game the next day, and everything is just rolling. To see that, that was one of the most amazing spectacles. Not in a good way, but to see that thing basically deflated because of the weight of the snow and just come crashing down. But yeah, seeing just the water coming down on the ice and seeing that panel completely caved in, it reminded me of the Metrodome for a moment. Not nearly the size of it, but and then in one of the shots, I had no idea. I just thought maybe this was after hours or when nobody was using it, and then you could see a couple of coaches or at least people that had helmets on, kind of in the picture too. I'm like, oh my gosh, there was something going on. There was a practice or a game going on.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable.
6:19. So you have the lineup and a chance to win my booty. You also yesterday got to hear from Ed Foley. Finally,
the man, the myth, the legend.
I wish you would have stepped to the mic and said, "I wish you would just shut your big yapper,
your yapper," or just go up there right as he gets the mic and does the little "Get yourself back on track. We're trying to get this program back on track."
Wouldn't it look great if he would have looked at Sipple and said, "Now I wonder, Steve, from what I've heard, you're using your paper not for writing, but for rolling doobies." Sip, you're going to be doing a lot of doobie rolling when you're living in a van down by the river. And then he turns to Amy, who is the fine new columnist from Lincoln Journal-Star, about a year in. And he goes, "Young lady, what do you want to do with your life?" And Amy responds, "I want to live in a van down by the river," and then you know what happens.
Yeah.
But so Ed Foley, so this is the part of, and you can see yesterday, and I think people are starting to find out that have met him throughout Nebraska, or, Ed's been very popular in Lincoln where he goes out to eat and, we'll go to a little watering hole, and he loves to talk. Absolutely loves to talk to people. Ed Foley is like me. We've never met a stranger. Everybody has a story, and you like to talk to people. And so here you have a 55-year-old special teams coach, and he's kind of an outlier on this staff because this is a relatively young staff. It's not just Garrett McGuire, who will be 24 in February. The average age of the staff at Nebraska compiled by Matt Rule, is under the age of 40. So Ed Foley is kind of like the old guy at 55. But if you heard him yesterday speak, whether about how he has become the in-state recruiting guy or talking about special teams, you can see why he's the ideal in-state guy. And you know why? Because he not only likes to talk, he is a conversationalist. He is very likable. I think for a lot of us, he is very relatable. Just a very cheery man who likes the game of football and has a passion for football and likes to talk football. And you know what people in this state like to do? They like to talk football.
Yep.
And it's not all 24/7, 365 Nebraska. They like to talk college football. And I can see why Ed Foley, if he pulls up on a bar stool next to you and you just start talking and he starts talking football, you're like, man, you know what? You're the kind of guy on this staff that I feel like I could share a beer with, and then you're going to the potluck with me. So yesterday just reiterated the point why he's the ideal in-state guy. Now, is he the ideal in-state guy to close on some of the must-gets? Well, that remains to be seen, and he was quite honest with that. He talked about all the schools he's gone to, and not all of them are going to have a prospect for Nebraska, but they're laying the groundwork, and there's a lot of things that go into it with, you want that school to bring their team to your team camp.
Right.
Everything that involves around being at a Nebraska football coach, being in your high school, when you're not a winning program or you don't have what you would consider Big Ten talent. So he was pretty honest in saying, you know what, I know that there are certain schools that have players that can help us win, and there's going to be other coaches on the staff that are coming in to take care of them or help me out. But yesterday just reiterated, he's very comfortable. He likes to talk, and people in Nebraska like to talk football. And Ed Foley relates very well.
Yeah.
So of all of the people that have been assigned with recruiting in-state, from most recently Barrett Ruud, where he was quote unquote the in-state guy, Ed Foley is probably the most ideal in-state guy. And he's a guy that probably up to 2 months ago, I don't know, had stepped foot in the state of Nebraska.
Right. What I would usually take away from the guys that are sort of labeled as storytellers or people who have a lot of different just moments that they don't mind sharing. They're very, I don't even say outspoken, but just comfortable in their own skin, I think is probably the best way to kind of describe it. Sometimes the more they talk, more there is kind of maybe a car salesman-y type of feel to them, where you don't know if what you're hearing is the most genuine thing as opposed to something that can just benefit that person. And then also for people who, tend to, I think Ed's time was probably close to 25 minutes yesterday. And there was never really a moment where you're like, okay, now we're just like sort of blabbering on. And there was a lot of, just a lot of trying to find the right type of story to maybe hide an answer to a question, because we've seen that. We've seen that in so many different sports where coaches, instead of maybe answering the question, they'll kind of hit you up with like a story to almost sort of distract you from it. I really would. I actually kind of, I don't want to say I expected that out of Ed. I didn't know what to really think, but he elaborated on a lot of stuff. I liked how he did answer everything as best as he could, but there was just a lot of detail that went into it. It wasn't a guy that was just sort of blabbering on where you're just like, oh my gosh, all right, enough already. Okay, now we're talking about nothing and it's going nowhere fast. Like you could tell from Ed, like, and he brought up like just sort of the reality of he doesn't know if it's possible to go to every school and to every, town in the state of Nebraska in the first year. He said he doesn't know if that's physically possible, but you could tell it's a goal. And he talked about the value of that, the benefit of that. And it was something that I just found to be kind of more insightful of what the dynamic of this coaching staff is. For the state's elder on this staff, for him, I liked his perspective of the younger guys. I like I think it was Evan who asked him the question about, do you feel like part of your job is also to impart some wisdom, to do a little more mentoring with the younger coach? He said, absolutely. And I kind of like that whole, we want to we want to come in and leave a place much better than it was when we got here. And that includes the coaches and bring that younger generation along. So it's just, he's another example of when you hear him talk and you get an idea of the dynamic of this coaching staff. It's just so different.
It doesn't, and it's, it's early, and they haven't lost a football game, and we know what it's like when you lose one game around here and then you lose another and then you lose another. But they do come off as, this isn't just a job. This is kind of cool to be coaching at Nebraska.
Right.
And I'll get to this a little bit later because they both kind of alluded to it. And I appreciate outsider perspective on Nebraska football is how heavy it is to restore Nebraska. Because they both, in a way, alluded to it, Terrence Knighton and Ed Foley. But right now, it's not like it's a job. It's like really cool to be at Nebraska. And their passion for the game and just being normal human beings, not Mickey Mouse, is matched by people that follow the program and love to talk. And I can see why he could be a stranger going into a pub in central Nebraska, not knowing anybody, and after when he leaves, he knows everybody.
Right.
He came across like that. Now there's part of his role as a special teams coach. He said something yesterday that I'll believe it when I see it about returning kicks. But does it matter if he can recruit? Does it matter if he can recruit? He probably will recruit his position group, kickers, punters, maybe, be brought in on guys that could be returners. But does it matter if a special teams coach can recruit? Because remember, that was the thing with Bill Bush.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Bush, very talented at what he does in that area, but he could also recruit. I wonder, does it matter if Ed Foley can recruit?
I don't even know if it does right now. Because I think it's the relationship business that he's in. It's almost kind of like you're the social director right now. And I'm not trying to, again, that might have sort of a negative connotation to what he does and what he's ultimately, has to do. But it's an important part of this transition from the last coaching staff to the new one, is getting those relationships, getting, familiar faces, becoming familiar faces, because you're at all these schools and these people now recognize you. That whole part of just if people want to call it public relations, sure, whatever you want to call it, but just having a person who you said who likes to talk, and he likes to talk, but he's got something to say. That to me, that's the big difference. There are people who like to talk, they have nothing to say, but they talk. He talks, he has something to say. And that's what I took away from the, almost 25 minutes of Ed Foley yesterday. You would think 25 minutes with a coach, what the hell are you really getting out of the guy? Got plenty. And so I think having that type of person, it made even more sense why he was the perfect guy to sort of be tasked with this. All right, get into those Nebraska high schools, get our vision across, shake hands with people, let them know we're here, let them know our door, our phone is always, we're going to be accessible to any of these coaches. If there's something that they feel we need to take a look at, my God, we are willing and able, and me, you've talked to me, and there's nothing about Ed Foley that I took away from yesterday or anything that we've heard that would make you think that is some type of hollow promise.
Yeah, I think the word that keeps coming back with everybody that, whether it be the head man or the assistants that have met the media for the first time, is they're genuine. You don't feel like you're getting the wool pulled over your eyes, or it's, people here are pretty honest. They like honesty, even if it's bad news. They like you to be honest, and I think genuine is the word that we all keep coming back to. There's another takeaway, and we'll get into this when we come back and we roll till 10, is Terrence Knighton spoke. We should not call him Terrence. We should not call him Coach Knighton. We should call him by his nickname from here on out. That should be the only thing we reference Terrence Knighton to, is pot roast.
Coach Pot Roast. I like that.
It's pot roast. Where's pot roast?
Which you didn't need
pot roast position group, not getting it done.
Yep.
But what happened to nicknames? Where'd all the nicknames go? Even us as non-football coaches or NARPs, non-athlete retired people. What happened to the nicknames? We used to, when I was a kid growing up, we had nicknames. We'll discuss when we come back. Sam McEwen from the World Herald coming up in an hour. We have college basketball tonight. Nebraska's in action. They are in Champaign to take on Illinois. Did you just go?
I did.
The line is surprisingly low for what happened last time and how Illinois is playing. Winners of 6 of their last 7, and those 6 wins have been by 9 or more.
I think
Yeah,
they're
the
gonna
line was
sleepwalk.
surprisingly low against Northwestern.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Just, I don't know.
Illinois is playing really
Doesn't
good
Vegas
basketball.
Vegas know? Does
They-
Vegas know something?
They typically know.
All right, we will discuss, because up until tip, everything's about what's going to happen next year. And then tip happens. We talk about the game. We observe the game. Then we talk about the game tomorrow. And then the next day we get up and we talk about the future of Nebraska basketball. That's how it works when you are 34 and 79 in 4 years.
It's true.
I mean, there's no getting around it. Absolutely.
You know,
no
we talk
way-
about
no-
Creighton, how we're excited, like, oh, yeah, okay, these next stretch of games and what it means and seeding wise. There will be a day. I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime, but there will be a day that we will be talking about that when it comes to Nebraska basketball for like a couple of years. There will be a day, just not this year.
That's very vague.
I'm just trying to give hope.
Nick, go out on a limb. there,
I'm just
man.
trying to give
take
hope,
a
damn
risk.
It's
Jeez.
not always going to be like this, Gary. It's not always going to be like
Hey,
this.
I remember when Nebraska basketball was good.
Big 8 days.
I remember when Tim Miles was
20. Well, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going
running,
Danny
making
Nee.
a run.
We were
I
okay.
was-
So
Hey,
would have been
not
8
my
years
fault.
ago?
I was in college in Lincoln when Nebraska basketball was good.
8 or 9 years ago? Is it what? Oh, yeah, 2014. It would have been right around this time that things kind of started turning a bit for them. No, I'm not going there. Catching lightning in a bottle.
One extreme to the other.
Well, they had all their starters pretty much for the most part healthy too. That's not the case with this group. There's only so much you can do right now. With this team.
Yeah, that roster was a little bit better.
A little bit.
Yes. All right, 6:32 off and running. There's Nick, Jimmy. I'm Gary on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. It's the 5K giveaway on 1620 The Zone. Enter to win a $5,000 shopping spree right now at 1620thezone.com. It's the 5K giveaway on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Another frigid start Tuesday with wind chill values dipping below zero early on. Morning clouds will give way to plenty of afternoon sunshine, though staying cold with highs in the mid to upper 20s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the time-saving traffic center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a bit of a delay from 149th to 138th along Industrial Road. Then on Center, be prepared for some significant slowdown from 192nd to 175th. And on Dodge, it looks like things are slowing down just a little bit from 80th to 72nd. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by IBEW Local 22.
Does great pay, fully funded medical benefits, and a solid retirement sound good to you? IBEW has immediate openings for journeyman electricians. Invest in yourself with IBEW Local 22. Call Bob at 402-980-7596. MD West One and the Ortho and Spine Urgent Care are now open on the southwest corner of 192nd and Dodge. MD West One is voted the #1 private medical practice in Omaha for orthopedics, neurosurgery, and spine. MD West One's new location in Fountain Ridge includes the Ortho and Spine Urgent Care, where walk-ins are welcome. See the specialists directly for any bone, joint, or muscle injury or condition. Go to mdwest1.com for details.
Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is your home for the big game. Whether it's the pro football playoffs or a rivalry on the hardwood, you'll find all the action on Oscar's upgraded audio-video system. With 40 TVs and massive dual projectors, the game has never looked better. Pair that with their award-winning char-buffed wings and $7.99 Monday through Friday lunch specials. Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill has everything you need. 173rd and West Center Road, and for takeout at 162nd in Maple.
Omaha Maverick baseball and softball season tickets are on sale now. Don't miss a pitch or run scored. 2023 season tickets include in-state rivals Creighton and Nebraska. Get your tickets by calling 402-554-MAVS. That's 402-554-MAVS.
Save the date and bring your appetite. 4 days of Shrimp Fest at Shuck's Fish House starts Sunday, January 29th. 9 different flavors of shrimp to choose from for only $5 a dozen. 3 Omaha locations. Get the skinny on our shrimp at shucksfishhouse.com.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language. Like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right. And they're designed by real language teachers, so you learn how to have real-world conversations, things you'll actually use.
It's incredible. After using Babbel, I'm ready to start having real conversations in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Babbel. Évidemment.
Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
From basketball to volleyball, baseball to softball, soccer, tennis, and so much more, the Creighton sports season is packed with action. The 1620 The Jays podcast, presented by Barry Law, covers it all. Each week, we visit with Blue Jay athletes and coaches to hear their stories and document their climb through the Big East Conference. The 1620 The Jays podcast drops each Friday morning and is found at 1620thezone.com and all major The 1620 The Jays podcast, presented by Barry Law from 1620 The Zone.
Omaha Maverick women's basketball heads to Minnesota for a weekday matchup with the St. Thomas Tommies. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. Thursday night. Hear all of the Omaha women's action against St. Thomas at 7 p.m. Thursday on 1180 The Zone.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k, and a $2,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Anybody figure out why Jalen Hurts was at the Syracuse-Virginia game last night in Syracuse, New York, the day after the Eagles won to go to the Super Bowl? Why was he there?
Well,
Taking in the basketball
Did
game?
you see the Empire State Building? Welcome back, Philadelphia. Come to our city. You are welcome. We applaud you.
And
No,
him
I
going
really
to
don't know.
him going to New York City would make more sense, but why go all the way to upstate
Yeah.
New York to go to the Syracuse Virginia basketball game, which I don't think he has a connection to either program. I mean, neither program is Alabama or Oklahoma. It was just curious that he was sitting like right next to the Syracuse bench.
I was going to say maybe he's a friend
just-
of the Virginia program or a top 10 basketball program for the pack line defense. Maybe he's a pack line defense fan.
It was just very odd for him to be there last night.
It's random.
They had the day off, but just to hop in a private plane and fly to Syracuse to watch a very NIT-ish basketball team.
But, okay, so he was sitting on the Syracuse side.
Yeah, he was right next to the Syracuse bench.
But
did you watch the game last night?
I did not watch the game last night. But doesn't that mean Virginia? I mean, he could still be maybe. I've heard some good stuff about Virginia. I've always wanted to go to.
Wouldn't he be a guest if he was sitting next to the Syracuse bench? Wouldn't he be a guest of the
Boeheim?
Orange?
Oh.
I don't know. Does he have a connection with Boeheim? I wouldn't want to have a connection with Boeheim. What a condescending jerk! What an absolute jerk! Can you imagine if we had to cover Syracuse and had to deal with him?
No,
we'd crush him. I hope people in Syracuse crush him. He is so condescending. You know what?
He's gotten worse over the
years. That
years.
program is stale.
Yeah.
His response last night in a very valid question from a reporter, and I'd have a hard time.
The Boeheim overall presence is always going to be well, I'm smarter than you. Why are you asking me that question? You've seen what I've done in this sport. It's not the whole what I've done lately. It's you've seen what I've done in the sport. So it's the whole how dare. If you ask a question that is anything but praising what he's done or trying to get a little bit more validation of what he's done, yeah, he's a complete a-hole about it.
Yeah, they're 13-10. They're 6-6 in the ACC.
If it was anyone else, they'd run him out.
And let's admit, the ACC is not what the ACC has been in years past.
Yeah, they're destined for the NIT. And those days of Carmelo Anthony are a long, long time ago. Why would anybody go to Syracuse to play for him? You know what it feels like? And you look like the last couple of press conferences. And the question that was asked last night, there was a player who is pretty good for them, was not even at the game. And that was the first question that a reporter asked, which I think is a big deal. Is one of your better players is not even at the game. And you go, hey, where's he at? And Boeheim jumped on this reporter. I wonder if Syracuse is afraid of Jim Boeheim.
I think they are.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they are.
He's a Hall of Famer. He has put banners in that building. He has been there for nearly 50 years. But Syracuse basketball is stale.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
I mean, completely stale, and it's because of him. They can't move forward. And I know those people are very passionate. I mean, some of the greatest moments of college basketball in the last 30 years have involved Syracuse. Some of the greatest players, but of late, I mean, Boeheim when he was here for the NCAA tournament, when we had Duke and we had Syracuse, we had KU and Clemson.
Yep.
I mean, I remember when you could go to the open practices. I mean, Boeheim just came across as a, you know what? Why are you here? Okay. I'm done with him. But what it feels like is watching his last couple of press conferences, it feels like it's the end of the road. Like you get you're on edge all the time. Mike Bray has kind of been that way at Notre Dame earlier in the year, even though Mike Bray is not a condescending guy. He's a really good guy in the business, but he kind of, in the back of your mind, you're getting towards the end of the road and things aren't going well. That's kind of what it feels like for Boeheim. But I don't know, just kind of like, Patrick Ewing, Georgetown will handle that the right way, and they will have a parting of ways where both sides look good for a legend. Does anybody think that the parting of ways eventually, either Jim Boeheim retiring or being nudged into retirement, will end well?
No, absolutely not.
I think Syracuse is afraid of Boeheim.
He'll hold on even longer, and he's held on too long.
Think about all those stories we've heard about. You could go to the Bobby Knight example of when they tried to, hey, come on, man, let's make it easy on both of us. You just step away. We, kind of make it a little bit more of your decision. We have the big, Bobby Knight's, farewell tour for that final. Hell no. Joe Paterno, same thing. I think in 2007, they tried to, or 02 might have been. 02 or 07, they tried to get rid of him.
I think 02, 04, they tried.
And he's basically like, hey, if you guys want to go, I'm not retiring, but if you want to go and fire me, good luck.
Bobby Bowden.
See how that's going to go over. I guarantee you Boeheim is the same way of like, I'm going out on my terms. And when I say I'm ready to go, that's when I'm going. If you guys want to fire me, good luck, because it's not going to go over well with our fan base. Well, I don't know enough about the Syracuse basketball fan base now.
I bet they're ready.
It's gotten younger, yes. And I would think that people are like, what's the big whoop about this? Why can't we move on? So, in Jim Boeheim's head, that would be the worst move you could make, and you will not have any support for this basketball program because I am a god here.
And they always believe they're one class away from turning it around and getting them right back. But then you see 13-10. It just continues to fall. Then they go on a little run in the Big East tournament and said, all right, ACC tournament, see what I mean? ACC tournament, and suddenly you're an 11 seed and you make a run. Oh, see, you have it back.
It's the quick turnaround against that style of play, against that zone. You get them on a round of 32 game. You only have 1 day to prepare for it. Oh, no.
He still has it. Yeah.
I mean, he's got over 1,100 wins. I mean, clearly his time with the Olympics,
he's accomplished
all
a
of
lot.
that stuff stands alone.
76, I believe, was his first year.
But what if Boeheim says, hey, I get it. We're kind of stagnant right now. Just let me get through my 50th year and then I'll step down. That's still 3 years away.
Oh,
you know how further into irrelevance you could fall in a matter of 3 years.
You could just become flat out bad.
This is the story to me that will always sum up Jim Boeheim. And I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know here, and Jimmy as well, but for maybe even some of the listeners. And this is not like a rumor. I mean, I've heard this on multiple occasions that this was the case, and that was the Maui trip where his wife at the time was on the plane out to Maui, and his mistress, who is now his wife, was also on the plane. And somehow they had to sit next to each other. And they were talking just small talk, like, oh, yeah, what are you doing here? Oh, yeah, my husband coaches one of the teams in the Maui Classic. Oh, yeah, my boyfriend does too. Oh, yeah, oh, cool. Which team? Syracuse.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, that's
No, I've not heard this
Oh,
story.
I have not.
Okay, yeah. Heard this from two separate people that I trust in my life. And yeah, it's like it's supposedly like a well-known story in the Syracuse circles. And it's something that I don't even know if you brought up to Jim Boeheim, he'd be like, that's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, marriage was ending, and
That is ballsy.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's worse than when he
And
peed his pants at Duke.
But
Or he killed somebody with his car.
Oh yeah.
and nobody talks about that, by the way. Nobody talks about that. But
That's ballsy on a plane because
and think about that. If you're Jim Boeheim, you could probably make arrangements to have both avoid each other. I don't think he cared.
I mean, that is really that's got some stones. I mean, I thought a former Nebraska basketball assistant having his side piece sitting behind the bench when his wife was in the crowd as well was ballsy. On a plane? Wow.
It's a Hawaii at that.
Yep. What can you do? But again, it's like, come on. You guys know who I am.
Man, now I don't want to even compare. I mean, I'm not comparing them as people at all. I'm just talking about the story of coaches that held on too long. You know, by the time Tom Landry got to 1988 with the Cowboys, he was 3-13. They had to have changes, but nobody wanted to be the one to make the change. So a new owner came.
Yeah, that's why. And that's
And you
a good
hate
point
seeing
on
it
Tom
because
Landry.
you like, these are your people, well, not Jim Boeheim, but people that you like watching, you root for to succeed in a way. And you're kind of cringing because you're like, oh,
well, Jim Boeheim's and like Landry and any of the ones that we've talked about, I mean, even Bobby Knight and Joe Paterno, their contributions to the sport were major. Okay, despite what controversies they might have had on the side, their contribution to what they accomplished as a coach from a win-loss standpoint, I mean, some of them with graduation rates, and you could put Paterno and Bobby Knight into that category too. There's a lot of things that you can hold up on a pedestal and say, wow, that was amazing. And that's got its place in the sport. But when it's time for them, whether it's as obvious as it can be, or there's something that, hey, I don't know if we can go forward because you're either linked to this or something that happened. It's amazing to me the power. And maybe it's not even amazing anymore because we've seen enough examples of it. The power that these coaches have where even the highest of higher ups completely handle that thing with kid gloves. They're just like, oh,
That's why
we got to figure this out.
Sit back. I think it'll be handled well. But whatever happens when they get to the end of the road this year with Patrick Ewing and his college career coming to an end, because here is one of the greatest players in the history of the program who just has not been able to get it done. He can't fix the issues that Georgetown has. Georgetown should be so much better. They've got all this money for basketball, and they're going to have to part ways with a legend who is under the Big John tree. And there's already a lot of discussion that Ed Cooley is in play for the Georgetown job, which makes it a little bit awkward. I don't know if Georgetown and Providence, they may play at least one more time. It's how you handle that stuff. And grab your popcorn, because I don't think any parting at Syracuse will be friendly.
No.
Last night,
nothing about Boeheim lends itself to believe it'll be friendly.
Yeah, and there's a program that, I mean, that's a university that needs basketball to be like it has, more consistent. Not just a periodic run to the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament, in the Elite Eight, and you go, how'd they ever get here? They should be one of the elite programs in basketball.
What we were used to every year. Syracuse was
they got
great.
a coach that's been there for 47 years, and he's become a jerk, an absolute jerk. I'd hate covering that program. I'd crush him.
Imagine his coach's show.
For just being, why don't you just be a nice human being when people ask really questions? Now, us as reporters, we can be jerks, and we can make your life difficult, and you can call us on it if we're being in the wrong. But if I'm a reporter like last night, and I ask a valid question, and your response to me basically is, why would you ask that question? and creating hostility, and I got no time for you.
Remember when he
And
torched the
that's
student media a couple years ago?
It's a bad look for Syracuse. All right. On that note, let me give you the stat of the day because there was a good college basketball slate. There's a great college basketball slate tonight, including KU and K-State, which get to play on ESPN Plus.
I thought of you when I saw that release that I got.
Hey, John Shambi has he called it E+. I like that. Like, we need to start calling it E+.
E+.
That makes it sound better than ESPN.
Yeah, it's become more
Just
mainstream
call
now.
it E+.
It's E+.
He
now.
and
Everybody's
Billis are
got-
doing
everybody's
the
got
game
it
on the
now.
plus.
But there's been some pretty good. I mean, the best basketball conference in America. The Big 12 has put some good games.
Yeah, KU Iowa State, now KU K-State.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But and this will be we talked about this when the KU Iowa State game was on E+. Is this will change because when they lose their Big 10 inventory, you will have more room for the Big 12 games on the regular network. But last night you had simultaneously 2 Big 12 games going on. You had Texas beat Baylor, which Texas, they lose their head coach.
They've been all right.
Texas might make a case with K-State for the best team in the Big 12 right now at the end of January.
Yep.
So Texas wins. But then in Lubbock, remember when we were all excited because Texas Tech and Creighton were going to play each other, and that was going to look good if you could get a win there? The bottom has completely fallen out at Texas Tech. They've had injuries, and they're just not very good. Last night, they were down 23. I was watching that game because I like watching Iowa State. And it's 39-22 at halftime. Like, Iowa State's good. They had an ice storm in Lubbock, so there was hardly anybody in the arena. I was watching. You guys, you may know him, Jimmy. Jeff Haxton, who was the play-by-play guy for Texas Tech. So he used to be in the Summit League. He was wearing an obnoxious, like, Texas Tech Hawaiian shirt.
Oh.
And they would show Mark Adams, the head coach of Texas Tech, so Jeff was right behind him. I'm like, well, I'm texting Hacks. You can't wear that when you're going to be on TV. But that's beside the point. So Texas Tech last night, they come back and win. They beat Iowa State in overtime. That's a bad loss for Iowa State because Texas Tech hadn't won a game in the Big 12.
It was never mind. I don't want to.
Weird things
I know
happen in Lubbock.
the number you might say here, so I'm not going to.
I mean, the pressure defense by Texas Tech, all of a sudden Iowa State looked like they couldn't dribble the basketball. Right. But the stat of the day is 23. That is the lead that Iowa State blew last night at Texas Tech.
That's where you were going.
With 12:30 to go.
Oh,
yeah.
12:30. It wasn't like, at one point in the first half, they were up by 20. No, 12:30 to go. They were up by 23.
Game's over. People are like, all right, I'll change it. Do something else.
23 is the stat of the day. And now Iowa State, which got blown out in Columbia on Saturday, loses in Lubbock, and they got KU at Hilton on Saturday. So 23. When we ask for it next hour, you have a chance to win $100 as part of my booty on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Omaha's most listened to all sports radio station. Again and again and again. 1620 The Zone.
Here's this week's Maverick Minute. Omaha Maverick Hockey improves to 14-10-2 after securing a weekend split with the number 9 Western Michigan Broncos last Saturday with a 2-0 shutout victory. Omaha Hockey is idle this coming weekend before welcoming the Colorado College Tigers to Baxter Arena next weekend for a 2-game series. And that's your Maverick Minute on your home for the Mavs. News Talk 1290, 1180 The Zone, and 1620 The Zone.
Mini bowling. What is it? It's Bob and Willie's Wonder Bowl. That's what is it. Bob and Willie's Wonder Bowl is half the size, but twice the fun of regular bowling. Smaller balls and shorter lanes means it's easier to play. Enjoy craft cocktails, beer pitcher specials, arcade games. From the kitchen, there's tavern-style pizza, fries, and wings, too. Plan your next party with mini bowling. Great for team building, birthdays, graduations, holiday parties, and more. Bob and Willie's Wonder Bowl, 38th and Bottom in Omaha, and coming soon to Lincoln. Click wonderbowling.com.
Making plans to watch the big game? Nick Handley here for my friends at DJ's Dugout. Watch the big game at DJ's Dugout. Enjoy big game specials all day, Sunday, February 12th. Get a dozen of DJ's famous wings for just $10. And $5 32-ounce domestic beers and $7 32-ounce specialty and craft beer drafts. Cheer for Kansas City or Philadelphia and gather with friends for the big game at DJ's Dugout. Dig in at the Dugout.
Give your business a whole host of options with Host Coffee. The most impressive selection of office coffee, water options, healthy food options, and vending technologies. Host Coffee, serving you since 72. Be a part of the Host Coffee team today. If you'd like to work for a trusted and loyal family-owned company that understands the needs of working families, Host Coffee has your opportunity. Apply at hostcoffee.net.
Your neighborhood is more than blocks of buildings. It's the people who live there that make it special. At Union Bank and Trust, we're not just creating home loans, we're making neighbors. We're not just small business lenders, we're small business shoppers. We don't just live in your community, we help you build it. Because our people are your people. Visit ubt.com/neighbor to learn more. Union Bank and Trust, member FDIC.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering professional-grade industrial supplies, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to answer your toughest questions. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
NRG Media in Omaha is growing. We're looking for an account executive to present and sell marketing campaigns to local businesses. We're also looking for a client marketing coordinator to help our account executives create and execute marketing campaigns backed by excellent customer service. NRG is also looking for a sales assistant to help with the behind-the-scenes details that keep everything running smoothly. For information on each of these positions, go to nrgmedia.com and click Careers. NRG Media is an equal opportunity employer.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
They line up the line tonight in Champaign is now 13.5. Illinois a favorite over Nebraska. That is a 6 o'clock tip. You think Shannon and Mayer will take the night off? Like
Maybe that's why.
Fred.
Maybe that's why it's low.
No, just 13.5 seems kind of low, but I mean a little respect there for Nebraska that they're going to come and compete. And man, Sam Hoiberg gets on a heater.
Yep.
Watch out, baby.
I wouldn't touch it just because that makes me nervous.
I love Jacob. The title of the Johnny Trueblood Award. Does that become a postseason award? The Johnny Trueblood he should have played more minutes award. Because especially now, it's just kind of a little bit funnier because it's Fred's son. You don't want to show the nepotism, but hey, there's a spark right there. You got to roll with it. I mean, with this group right now, whoever can put the freaking ball in the hoop. I mean, see, was it 25 minutes he played? 25 minutes against Maryland, and there were quality minutes.
Yeah, 15 points.
Yeah,
the deputy mayor, if you will.
They're going to need Derek Walker. To ball out tonight. He only had 5 points in the first meeting that was in Lincoln. That was a woodshed beating. That game's at 6 tonight. 13.5 point favorite. I was mentioning earlier, we were talking about Ed Foley and pot roast. Met the media. Please do not refer to Terrence Knighton by his legal name anymore. He is just pot roast. What happened to the nicknames? When I was growing up, everybody had nicknames. And it wasn't just Chris Berman on ESPN giving out nicknames.
Yeah.
Bert Be Home by 11. Julio Take Me on a Sea Cruise. I mean, all on and on and on.
Nate Dran means business.
Like Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle. Shoeless Joe.
Lenny Dykstra, Nails. One of the great nicknames.
I mean, we had the Splendid Splinter, the Sultan of SWAT, the human highlight film, Dominique Wilkins. I mean, Walter Payton, who 48 years ago yesterday was drafted.
Thanks.
Sweetness. Where have all the nicknames gone?
Hampton, Danimal?
Not even just sports, but like your buddies. I know that, like, I guess I would call it a nickname. Sharpie. So anybody that knows me doesn't really ever call me Gary. It's always Sharpie.
Mm-hmm.
So I know if somebody referenced my first name, either I came out of their body or
you're in trouble,
or they just don't know me.
Yeah.
So they're addressing me as
Yeah.
Mr. Sharp or Gary.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened to the nicknames? Like,
I had a pretty, you can imagine some of the ones that I might have been exposed to when I was young, given my name, my first and last name. Nick, which rhymes with something, and Handley. You can
people
fill in
that
the
sing
blanks
Bachelor
there.
Party.
Yeah. Think of that first
call.
name and then think of using, instead of my last name, Handley, Handful. Yeah. Just try that one on for size there. I got that one quite a bit. Yeah. Why? I'm okay with it.
Well, we know maybe not how you got that name, but we found out yesterday how Pot Roast got his nickname. What happened to the nicknames? Like, do kids have nicknames these days?
Is it are you
Great
are you
point.
bordering on a fence that now we kind of shy away from it because
everybody gets offended
what
about
someone
everything.
thinks might be a kind of a funny, clever nickname and might come across as offensive to the person who you're nicknaming, that it's maybe ingrained into the young generation to just steer clear of that.
All right.
That's just a theory. Now,
Oh, I'm with you. Everybody's so sensitive now that
Right.
that's probably what it is.
that if you did say a nickname, like say in school or something, it got squashed immediately. Teacher did, or maybe just another kid who doesn't think anybody should be exposed to nicknames. I don't know.
I mean, one of my jobs, they proposed eliminating elimination games because they thought it would hurt their feelings. And some of us about walked out of the meeting like, you're kidding, right? Thankfully, that didn't pass.
I'm for bringing back nicknames. Like Damon refers to Caleb. I don't know that I've ever heard Damon refer to his son as Caleb. It's always Lob.
Wow.
Well, that's his nickname.
Yeah.
And that's how it used to be. Is you would be referred to all the time by your nickname. You're like playing in the neighborhood. Everybody in my neighborhood had a nickname, and I didn't call Jeff Flack Jeff. I mean, we called him something else that I can't repeat on the air. And now, I mean, it made sense because he belongs to the state of Iowa.
The majority of my friends, I would say 80% of my friends I refer to either by their last name or a nickname. Never usually by their first name. If it's their first name, they're like, that's weird.
Oh, we were the same.
Why are you calling me that?
So what happened to the nicknames?
I think you're asking the wrong, I mean, hopefully someone can enlighten us, but I think between the three of us, you're asking the wrong group because we're pro nicknames or at least last names.
To bring back nicknames.
If your name was ever used, you're like, what happened? Is everything okay?
So
Are you okay?
Do we do the exercise? Maybe we work with a smaller roster right now, maybe a basketball roster, and just see if we can take a stab at some nicknames. And then maybe if we're successful there, we could look at maybe 140, 150 man football roster. Yeah, just an idea. I mean, hey, you can't have a little fire without a little spark.
I mean, was 2 a.m. a nickname? Or was that more of a brand?
I felt, brand I think is more appropriate, and I felt like we really pushed that. Like that to me was kind of forced because you never heard Adrian referring to himself like that. Hey, there's 2 a.m.
I mean, I miss the days of Ironhead.
Yeah,
just simple nicknames that you didn't have to. You
Fridge,
you call
Mongo.
somebody, you call somebody Ironhead or Fridge or Mongo, and you're like, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But hearing Pot Roast yesterday and how great a nickname that was, how he acquired it, I'm like, where have all the nicknames gone? Chris Berman? I mean, can he reinvent himself?
Maybe.
All right. Just checking.
Every time I'd see Rex Hudler in the Royals games, I'd be like, the Wonder Dog. And I had to explain that.
Yeah.
But see, even with a last name like that, like it's easy just to anybody with the last name of like Hudson or Hudler, you're like, you're Huddy. You're Huddy.
Well, in hockey, everybody has an E after the name or a Y.
Yeah, that's true. It's
Or
so
Gab.
it's that is it's so true. Although Gabs
Steve
Gabs
Johnson-
goes by Gabby. He'll refer to himself as Gabby, not Gabs.
Steve Johnson was always Johns. Hey, Mike Hastings, Hasty.
Hasty, yep, Hasty.
Yeah. So hockey does so many things.
Jones,
right.
hey, Jonesy.
Yeah.
The Sharpie be easy, Handley.
And
You can't
that's
add an E
where
to me.
it kind of really took off was in the hockey world.
You'd be Chavi. You just be Chavi.
Yeah.
Because you can't be like Chavez-y. You be Chavi.
My friends in high school, I was Chavo.
Chavo.
Because there were 2 Jimmys in our group, so none of us were Jimmy.
Chavo makes me think of the movie.
That's where it came
Friday Night
from.
Lights. Okay, yeah. Where they got
We were in high
Chavez.
school about the same time.
Okay.
All right, we need to bring back the nicknames. We should all have nicknames in this building.
Yep. We can't use my old one, though.
Be great on
We
promos.
can't use that. But, like, this has nothing to do with my basketball game at all. But, again, the last name. It led to a lot of different
The nickname
nicknames.
was really handful.
From a section of my friends that thought it was really funny to do that. Yeah. No, but a lot of it, people just no. Trust me, it had nothing to do with any type of reputation at all.
This is our
None
friend
at all.
Nick. He's affectionately known as Knee.
I think you missed an opportunity there.
I
but
did. No,
you
I
gotta pick
did.
and choose your spot.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I'd be Handles. People would be like, yeah, it's Handles.
Why do they call you Meat?
Sam McEwen's coming up here in about 30 minutes on Mornings with Sharp and the Handful. 1620 The Zone.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley, brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine on 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the time-saving traffic center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a bit of a delay from 149th to 138th along Industrial Road. Then on Center, be prepared for some significant slowdown from 192nd to 175th. And on Dodge, it looks like things are slowing down just a little bit from 80th to 72nd. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott.
This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
There's a lot more to love for a lot less at Saul's Jewelry and Loan. Now through Valentine's Day, get 50% off a huge selection of jewelry, heart-shaped jewelry, gemstones, everything you need to show your love. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. It's the celebration of love sale with 50% off jewelry at Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
Email us on the Equitable inbox with whatever is on your mind. The Zone inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. You can hit me up, agree, disagree, tell me your thoughts on life at Handley at 1620thezone.com. We want to hear from you on the Equitable Bank Zone inbox.
J-Tech Construction reminds you that this time of year, your home's energy efficiency is under tension. Don't let your windows cost you by raising your energy bills this winter. J-Tech Construction will come out and provide you with a free estimate on upgrading your windows and keeping your energy costs down. They have custom-made, energy-efficient windows that keep the outside out with the professional installation you would expect. Contact the official exterior and solar experts of the Huskers. J-Tech Construction, your exteriorexperts.com.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Kugler Vision. A new year means it's time for a new you. 5 years ago, I was in that exact spot and I was ready to ditch the glasses for good. I scheduled a consultation with Dr. Kugler and his team at Kugler Vision and figured out which of the procedures would work best for me. You can do the same today. Go to the website, kuglervision.com, and also check out their special New Year savings on modern LASIK. That's kuglervision.com.
Winning comes without a guarantee. Focus, discipline, and extraordinary effort make winning more likely. Sometimes our greatest wins come from major setbacks. Coming back from a serious injury is a win that requires teamwork. At Berry Law, we're in it to win it.
If you have been seriously injured in an accident, call Berry Law today. 402-999-7777.
Welcome to the After Hours Lounge on 1620 The Zone.
The head Maverick, Chris Crutchfield, is going to join us.
I was so happy with those guys because they hadn't won a road game in almost 2 years. I'm proud of what our guys did. We continued to fight throughout the game. It was a two-possession game, and that's the biggest thing with our guys right now, just continue to compete.
Catch After Hours 6 to 8, Monday through Friday, or as the sports schedule allows. Brought to you by Payne West on 1620 The Zone.
MD West 1 and the Ortho and Spine Urgent Care are now open on the southwest corner of 192nd and Dodge. MD West 1 is voted the #1 private medical practice in Omaha for orthopedics, neurosurgery, and spine. MD West 1's new location in Fountain Ridge includes the Ortho and Spine Urgent Care, where walk-ins are welcome. See the specialists directly for any bone, joint, or muscle injury or condition. Go to mdwest1.com for details.
Give your business a whole host of options with Host Coffee. The most impressive selection of office coffee, water options, healthy food options, and vending technologies. Host Coffee, serving you since 72. Be a part of the Host Coffee team today. If you'd like to work for a trusted and loyal family-owned company that understands the needs of working families, Host Coffee has your opportunity. Apply at hostcoffee.net.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, welcome back in hour number 2 on the last day of January, mornings with Sharp and Handley. All the storylines that you all want to consume about the upcoming Super Bowl.
You're here for it.
Philadelphia and Kansas City actually have not played very much since the merger. You got the two top teams. You got the two top MVP candidates. You got Andy Reid, who is coaching against his legacy. If they don't win in the Super Bowl, Philadelphia will have won 2 Super Bowls since he was fired with 2 different head coaches. If you're not vibing with that and you don't know that Jason and Travis are brothers, how about this one to spark the interest of Philadelphia and Kansas City? Better third baseman, Michael Jack Schmidt or George Brett?
Now, this is a debate I'm here for. I enjoy this.
Well, we know who had the better mustache, but
yeah.
George Brett ever go mustache? I don't think he did.
If he did, no, I don't think so.
I see it without
There was
having
no facial hair for George Brett.
without having the numbers next to me. I still lean towards Mike Schmidt.
See, I'll lean towards George for argument's sake, but
I mean, you don't have to lean that way, Jimmy. I think George Brett was the better third baseman. 3 batting titles in 3 different decades.
I mean, just
Yankee
1980
killer.
alone.
Yeah, I mean,
Yankee killer.
unfortunately, that was the year that Philadelphia beat
Yeah.
the Royals in the World Series. I would take George Brett over Mike Schmidt.
Yeah, hemorrhoids are the worst.
Kansas City is better than Philadelphia. This is a proven baseball. Well, maybe not recently, but
Right.
back then. George Brett greater than Mike Schmidt.
You know,
Now, that's the stuff we need a media day.
the Andy Reid Eagles Super Bowl stint, that was just so weird. That was the
There was a
TL.
lot of drama.
Yeah, with the
Donovan McNabb.
They
There was a
took
lot of
their
drama.
time on that drive down 10.
T.O.'s playing with a broken leg.
Would have been MVP easily if they won.
McNabb was throwing up. The game was in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it was
It was
just
cold.
It's one of those, and thankfully for Philadelphia fans, they had one of the greatest. I won't even say upset because that team was so good, but the fact that it was Nick Foles starting and not Carson Wentz, who was the clearly, as of now, the outlier of his career, was well on his way to win an MVP. But, you're playing mighty Tom Brady and the Patriots. I mean, that and winning that in dramatic fashion and how fun that game was. I'm glad they have that memory to sort of offset what was just a very forgettable experience in their more recent Super Bowl matchup. So,
You know a storyline that probably, well, it would have been a big storyline if Cincinnati would have been there, is how rare it is for somebody to win a Heisman Trophy, a national championship, and a Super Bowl.
yeah, that is.
Devontae Smith has got that chance with the Eagles.
Mhm.
Charles Woodson, whatever you think about Michigan's national championship. Oh,
Sure.
Marcus Allen?
I think so. Heisman.
Yeah.
I believe he was part
Okay.
of the
Yep.
79 championship.
So there you go. I'm giving you all kinds of storylines. Okay? Because I know that you're fatigued with the Chiefs. I get that. I understand that. I also wonder, in the world of sports where things come at you fast and we're on to the next shiny object, like, I just want to remind people that Patrick Mahomes is still the number 1 quarterback. Look what he did on Sunday.
Mhm.
Oh, by the way, Dak Prescott loses his wide receiver. What happens? Aaron Rodgers loses his wide receiver. What happens? Patrick Mahomes loses his wide receiver. Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl, and Mahomes is
Loses
going to
an
win the MVP. But there is part of I get there. I sense a little bit, and it's not Well, Patrick Mahomes isn't as good as no. People understand that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, and along came, Joe Burrow, and he's the new shiny object, and there's other new shiny objects that play quarterback, and so you drift there. What do you guys think is and this is for?
But you're kind of seeing that in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts a little bit now too. For a guy who's been kind of banged up yet is still a big part of the offense. Still hurts people not only with his arm but his legs too, and he's that sort of new breed of quarterbacks right now too. So that is part of this, absolutely.
So I sense some PM15 fatigue. I also sense Kansas City's in the Super Bowl for the third time in 4 years. There's a lot of us that live in this area that are Chiefs fans. Mitch Holthus probably does not help, who said, you're going to have to deal with us.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the window for us as sports fans to turn on a team? Because when Kansas City, and Andy Reid might be one of the nicest people in the world. Unfortunately, Andy Reid in his personal life with his kids, it
sucks.
It's not good.
No.
But as a person, Andy Reid is one of the nicest human beings that is going, okay? When the Chiefs were from Andy Reid, he's finally going to get a Super Bowl. You have Patrick Mahomes. He's doing things we've never seen before. The excitement that I felt like across the board as sports fans, people were rooting for Kansas City to win the Super Bowl, and they were generally excited because that was a new team, passionate fan base. You got a couple of characters. They're really, really good. And then they go back to the Super Bowl. And for the third time in 4 years, they're going back to the Super Bowl. You have a quarterback that in all of his seasons as the starter has made the Final Four. Okay? He has, if he wins the Super Bowl, 40% of his seasons he would have won a Super Bowl. He's been to the Super Bowl now in 60% of the seasons that he has been a quarterback. But there is, just my sense, and that's my team, there's fatigue for the quarterback. There's probably fatigue for the act, the WWE star that is playing tight end. And there's just fatigue because it's Kansas City and, oh, geez, here we go, third time in 4 years. I'm curious what people think, and this is across the board in all of our sports, in college and in pro, because I imagine Georgia football is going to enter this discussion.
I bet they're entering it this upcoming year.
How long is the window before we turn on teams?
I think it's 2 years.
I always say it this way, and this is where you can puff your chest out a little bit, Gary. If you get to that point with your team, that's a good thing. Fine. If you're hated, that means you've done something to be hated. The fact that we live in a time where many people will now be rooting for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. It's like Twilight Zone, but that means you've done something good. And I'm saying this because this is what happened with the Spurs. Nobody paid any attention to them. Yeah, they won. That's cute. They won another one. That's cute. Then they become the evil empire. They become hated. And they had those run-ins with the Suns by 2007 where it's like everyone was sick and tired of them. Once they become sick and tired of your team, that means, wait, they only become sick and tired because we keep winning. Oh, well.
Let me use this example. I'm convinced it's 2 years, especially if you're back-to-back into those big stage moments. But I like that you went there with the characters because you got to have some of that as well. I'm going to use the Warriors as an example. Because remember when the Warriors first got on the scene, it was cool. Like Steph, you got this little dude who's just an assassin. And I mean, this guy is just knocking him down from everywhere. He's kind of a likable guy. He's just very unassuming. But then you also have Draymond Green, who's kind of the jerk. Yeah. The guy who kind of takes a little bit of that edge into every matchup. And so there's a focal point, but there's someone you can get behind. It's kind of a cool story. And at the moment, we considered Draymond Green as, dude's kind of the enforcer. Every team needs one of those. Then the next year, it's, God, that guy's a jerk. Okay, he's all over the place. He's crossing the line. I mean, he's dangerous. And all of a sudden, you got Steph. Man, if I got to hear more about how good of a three-point shooter Steph Curry is, oh my gosh, and Golden State is back in it. It's amazing within just 2-year time frame how many people were rooting for LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers in that matchup because they were seen as sort of the underdog. But I think a lot of it also had to do with Warriors fatigue in that situation. So I think the characters matter. I think how much of the spotlight, those primetime games, even the regular season, that team is occupied. And we get why they are, because you're the defending champion. And especially if you have a decent-sized market, you're going to get a lot of those primetime matchups. So it's the visibility throughout the season, but then to see them back on the big stage with the characters that are involved, because I could make a strong point that you could put Mahomes and Curry kind of in the same neighborhood there, and you could put Kelsey and Draymond Green. Not that Kelsey's out there injuring people, but he's very outspoken. He doesn't care what you think. So the characters matter. If you had like this group, like sort of like the Patriots. Now, see, the villain there was Bill Belichick, because he's kind of grumpy. He doesn't say a lot. It's like, God, dude, give us something. But you also had like what appeared to be these robots. It's like, these guys don't have fun. Gronk's kind of fun to get behind, but man, he really reins it in during games. You get to a certain point that the characters of it, the players in this point, they matter. Those personalities matter. And so I still think it's 2 years where you can go from, man, this is a great story. I haven't done it for a while. I'm like, oh, them again?
Rich Eisen had a great tweet Sunday night after the game, and it kind of goes to what you're both saying. He's talking about Patrick Mahomes. He goes, if there's a reason why we fawn all over him, there's a reason. And he was talking about, obviously, that last play. So this all plays into people just get tired of hearing about you, and that it's just the natural cycle of any.
Well, you bring up Georgia. They're entering into that this year because
they're Alabama.
What did we like about Georgia at first?
8-4.
They weren't Alabama. Finally, somebody other than Alabama, and they just so happen to beat Alabama. Oh my God, we love them. Last year, like, gosh, Georgia's in it again. They're a damn good team, but man, TCU's a fun story, man. I really want to get on board TCU. Georgia, I don't want to see win. We all knew Georgia's probably going to win, but my heart tells me TCU better story. Well, that didn't happen. In fact, they got smoked. So now you're not only winning back to back, but you're going into the third year. You've kept Alabama at bay enough to where we're like, oh gosh. Just think, if Georgia makes the national championship game again next year, we'll be like, oh, you got to be freaking kidding me.
Hang around long enough to be the villain.
So I agree here. The 2 to 3 years, KDH 68760 on Twitter. He said about 2 to 3 years. Chiefs had everyone wrapped around their finger. Then the Mahomes family got vocal.
That's the other one too.
Characters.
Hey.
And living down there,
I don't care about the family. They didn't throw a pass, okay? They didn't have to find a wide open Marcus Kemp on Sunday night, who had been on the field for 10 snaps this year. That just adds to the legend.
Make a part of it.
Chief fans were the new money family on the block who hadn't done anything in years, but being jackwagons, and the media has a short attention span on teams. 2 to 3 years is the window before we turn on teams. College football is a good indicator of this. Georgia, Alabama, Clemson. Like Clemson was, hey, man, they're new.
Yeah.
Dabo is different.
Yep.
Deshaun Watson is, oh my gosh, what he can do.
Another good example.
And then, they won a title.
Yep.
They brought in another hotshot quarterback. I would say the Clemson window was about 2 to 3 years, and we've kind of turned on Clemson in the college football world. Nebraska football back in the 90s, was the same way. Remember, they were the darling in 93. Because even though you were going against Bobby Bowden, it was T.O., and is he finally going to get it? And then the way the game ended. And then 94, and it also happened to be who you were playing in the Orange Bowl, playing Miami.
Orange Sap.
Everybody was rooting for Nebraska. So they finally get their title. And then they turn around, and they are one of the most dominant programs in 95. In 96 is, oh, geez, there's Nebraska again. And then in 97, I felt a ton of national fatigue towards Nebraska. So there you go. So the window, essentially, before we turn on a team is 2 to 3 years.
And it's a good side of it.
And like you were alluding to earlier, Jimmy, sorry, Nick, is that's something that's like the proverbial feather in the cap.
Yeah,
you did it.
We got people to turn on us.
Yep, it is. It's true. And what also kind of drives that point home is you mentioned 96. Remember sort of, and social media didn't even exist, but I remember sort of this national jubilation when they get blanked at Arizona State. You go back to back, and as you mentioned, it was a really good run. People were excited about it and like, oh my gosh, and then they take down Florida in the fashion they did. And then the following year, you get beat, 19-0 against Arizona State. And it seemed like there was more giddiness in the national scene because I think they were ready to move on to another team.
Or when John Malkovich goes like this on 4th and 1, and they go for it and end up winning.
And remember, in Texas was a major underdog in that game too.
Texas was not. Texas. at that
James
point.
Brown.
Mhm.
But yeah, so it's true. I mean, the fan base itself, obviously, it doesn't exist with them. But real quick, I want to ask you another, when we talk about sort of the characters involved, how much of you mentioned the family, how much of the Brittany Mahomes part of it do you think gets a little, because I feel like even when she's not probably trying to be the center of attention on stuff, people want to have that narrative like, oh, here's Brittany Mahomes again. And I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
In the market itself, it had gotten to be so, because it became like, A block on the news there, and it was just whatever they're doing. So if you're obviously a Chiefs fan there, you eat it up, and even some of them are probably tired of it. But if you were the, many people within the market that are the exact opposite, that do not like the Chiefs at all, it just became overkill to where you're like, man, you're making me really not like someone who actually is a really good dude and a great player.
Yeah.
I separate him. She isn't, and his brother isn't, and mom and dad, and grandma who was pounding Coors Lights after her bet Sunday night.
Okay, that part's cool. I don't care what's
they're
that's
not throwing passes, so I can separate them.
That's good.
He's an A dude.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of that, but people find. I mean, we quickly move on in the sports world. I don't know.
Look how fast they're ready to jump on Joe Burrow Sunday night.
Well, and okay, so there's a lot to like about Joe Burrow, and he's about to get paid, and there's a good story there. How long before we turn on the Bengals?
Exactly.
Now, it might be tough to ask around here because who the head coach is.
Yeah.
And you got Cam Taylor-Britt, who is going to be a budding, really long-time starter in the NFL. And you got Stanley Morgan Jr. on the roster. So there's a lot of connections to the Bengals. So it might be a little bit different around here. But how long before people are like, you know what? As long as you got Eli Apple on the roster, man, I got no time for you. And that would be about 2 to 3 years, especially if the Bengals, like next year, don't get back to the Super Bowl and win it under Joe Burrow.
I'll go one step further. What we appreciate about Joe Burrow, the personality, you've said it many times. Like,
you set it up.
He's that guy that I want to like, but man, he's cocky. There's a confidence, there's a swag. And right now, because they haven't won it, it's endearing. It's like, yeah, that's my guy. You win it, dare I say, even win a couple Lombardi trophies in a matter of like 3 or 4 years, that swag, that confidence, that cockiness will be used against him. It totally will. It'll be part of the narrative of, I'm sick of this dude always just sitting there all smug like. It will be used against him, fair or not.
Hey, he's playing with house money right now. He got outplayed. He got outplayed by a guy that was 60%. Got outplayed on Sunday, and he kind of got a pass. I mean, it has no effect on his legacy, and Joe's going to be fine. And as long as they manage that roster, and number 9's playing quarterback, Cincinnati's going to be in the mix every single season. But he did get kind of a pass. Maybe it's because he was missing 3 offensive linemen. I don't think he played well on Sunday.
Not as I mean, hey,
but
the offensive line the way it was a year ago, I would argue that he played better in those moments than he did in that game.
All right. Sam McEwen is coming up next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. Hey, you can shop Buick GMC first and experience the difference. They got the large showroom. You don't have to worry about the elements outside 119th and I. So you can check out all the new and pre-owned inventory, and your eyes and your body might wander over to the truck section where you'll find the GMC Sierra 1500. It's the light-duty pickup truck. They got 8 different models. They got Super Cruise. They got GMC Pro Safety, Pro Grade trailering system, multiple Pro tailgate. They've got all the amenities that you want. Leather seats. Oh, yes. Find out more at Woodhouse Buick GMC, 119th and I. Or you can go online where they've completely streamlined the process. They make it easy on you. This is not going to be difficult when you deal with Woodhouse Buick GMC. Check them out online, WoodhouseBuickGMC.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. It's the 5K giveaway on 1620 The Zone. Enter to win a $5,000 shopping spree right now at 1620thezone.com. It's the 5K giveaway on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Another frigid start Tuesday with wind chill values dipping below zero early on. Morning clouds will give way to plenty of afternoon sunshine, though staying cold with highs in the mid to upper 20s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley, brought to you by MD West 1 Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine on 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the time-saving traffic center. We're still getting reports of that accident northbound along 192nd Street at Dodge, so please be cautious if you're in that area. On Center, be prepared for some significant slowdowns from 183rd all the way to 168th. Then along Highway 370, be prepared for a delay from 150th all the way to 90th Street. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Lauritsen Gardens.
The latest exhibit at Lauritsen Gardens is making a big splash. Don't miss the fantastic sculptures of Washed Ashore, Art to Save the Seas, on display through May 14th. To plan your family's art adventure, visit lauritsenGardens.org.
Visit KuglerVision.com today and check out their special New Year savings on modern LASIK.
Stories Coffee Company is now open in Midtown Crossing and Gretna. Stories Coffee Company serves premium roasted coffee along with a full menu of teas, smoothies, breakfast, lunch, wine, local beer, and heavy appetizers. Stories Coffee Company. People love coffee.
What happens when students come to school every day on time and ready to learn? They improve academically, become more responsible, manage their time well, and learn the value of education. Whether your child is starting preschool or preparing to graduate, family support and a great attitude towards education is important. Help your child come to school every day ready to learn. Make this the best school year yet.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Give your business a whole host of options with Host Coffee. The most impressive selection of office coffee, water options, healthy food options, and vending technologies. Host Coffee, serving you since 72. Be a part of the Host Coffee team today. If you'd like to work for a trusted and loyal family-owned company that understands the needs of working families, Host Coffee has your opportunity. Apply at hostcoffee.net.
Omaha Maverick baseball and softball season tickets are on sale now. Don't miss a pitch or run scored. 2023 season tickets include in-state rivals Creighton and Nebraska. Get your tickets by calling 402-554-MAVS. That's 402-554-MAVS.
Omaha Maverick women's basketball heads to Minnesota for a weekday matchup with the St. Thomas Tommies. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. Thursday night. Hear all of the Omaha women's action against St. Thomas at 7 p.m. Thursday on 1180 The Zone.
Make the right call, fans. The Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Rooferees. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. It's time for The Deuce with Jimmy Chavez on 1620 The Zone. All the headlines you need in 2 minutes or less.
And one of the good local stories that we didn't get a chance to get to yesterday, but behind 7 wins and 3 bonus point victories, the Nebraska wrestling team defeated Wisconsin 24-11 Sunday afternoon at Devaney. The dual win marked Coach Manning's 300th career win. He now holds a career record of 300, 129, and 5. Didn't want to let that pass without getting that in there. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Husker basketball, as Gary said, at Illinois tonight, 6 o'clock on BTN. Illini a slight favorite on FanDuel at 14.5. Another night, another 50-point performance in the NBA. We weren't kidding when we were making fun yesterday. This time it's Luka Doncic, who now leads the league in 50-point performances this season. 53 points as the Dallas Mavericks defeated the Pistons 111-105. And afterwards, Luka had some words with one of the Pistons' assistant coaches, but he'd been going at it with him throughout the game. Said it got a little chirpy. So that's 4 on the season. Can't wait to see who's next. See if we get another 70-point performance. Remember, Donovan Mitchell had 71 earlier in the season. We now have clarification on the injury that knocked Brock Purdy out of Sunday's NFC Championship game and it eventually knocked the 49ers right out of the playoffs. Purdy suffered a torn ulnar collateral ligament in his right elbow that will keep him out for 6 months. I will likely see him return around the start of training camp just in time for all the quarterback controversies with Trey Lance and Jimmy G. Be a fun offseason in San Francisco. Bengals linebacker Jermaine Pratt expressed contrition for his reaction that went viral after the team's championship game loss to Kansas City Sunday night. On Monday, Pratt said the way he responded was incorrect. I was in the moment. I was wrong. I would say I was wrong. As a man, you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I was wrong. I wasn't a great teammate in that moment. That doesn't define me as a man. Don't know.
Thanks, Jimmy. Let's bring in head of Nebraska on the road again tonight against Illinois, Sam McEwen from the World Herald. Good Tuesday morning, Sam. Welcome.
Hello. How are you today?
Good. Hey, let's start basketball and work our way to football and some of the things that were discussed yesterday. There was no written agreement between Trev and Fred in the offseason when they restructured the contract. But do you think the word metrics, do you think Fred has met the metrics that Trev and him talked about in the offseason?
I don't. No. I think it probably has something to do with, now that's just to restore the contract to the original salary. No, I don't think 10 wins would do that. But again, the metrics are an automatic trigger. So you could, Trev can do whatever you want there. So, like Scott didn't even get an opportunity to match his metrics and he just got fired. I'm not saying he should have, but I'm saying he didn't get an opportunity to win 6 games. Fred's still here and, Nebraska can do what it wants, but I don't. I don't think the metrics probably would have been 10 wins. My hunch is, it was probably pretty similar to Frost. Maybe 15 wins, maybe making the NIT, maybe making, I don't know, is the CIT even around anymore?
I don't.
Yeah,
like
but,
that.
Yeah, but you wouldn't go to that.
Yeah, got to pay for that.
So yeah, like I would think it would be something, along those lines. That would be my hunch, but I don't honestly know what exactly the metrics were, and they're contractually related. I don't think it's related to him keeping the job. So
yeah, and Sam, I'm glad you brought that up because I remember with the Scott Frost deal and then the metrics we were talking about. Oh, that I fell kind of victim to this too, like right on first blush of this is what would bring Scott Frost back another year, as opposed to actually just sort of reinstating the compensation. So we're all trying to ponder this, the current roster situation, the injuries that are part of this season going forward. Trev seems like a guy who's measured, seems like a guy who understands all of that. I mean, how big of a factor do you think that is in this sort of evaluation going forward with the injuries that have taken place?
Yeah, I think it's big. I don't think I think the team could really struggle down the stretch, to be honest with you. They might win 2 or 3 more. But yeah, it could get tough. I think it could be tough tonight. So yeah, I think that plays a factor. Absolutely. When you built your identity around defense and, your 2 best defenders suffer season-ending injuries, both flukes. I don't think either one of them came here with a long injury history. So, yeah, I think when that happens, you have to take it into consideration. I think you have to take into consideration what you're paying. What that would cost. I think you have to take into consideration, and this is a key consideration. What is the long-term plan? Do you have? Are you going to have to just go out and get 3 more transfers in the off season? Who would those be? What would the vision be going forward? How do you build a program when it's really based on, hey, we got to go get the 3 great transfers again? What if they get hurt? Like all those things, I think you have to sit down and really analyze whether the program is being built for long-term success. You have to take into account the fact that I don't think Nebraska had an opportunity, a full opportunity to get Deontay Johnson. I think you have to take that into account. He's the best player at Kansas State. That team is what it is because he's there. Certainly they have some other nice players there, but they're headed toward a top 4 seed probably in the NCAA tournament. They were able to get him, and Nebraska wasn't. I think that's part of the discussion. I don't think anybody in Nebraska is going to say that, but how can you not?
Yep.
I mean, so I think there's a lot of things to consider there, and we're just going to have to see where it all shakes out, including who would take the job and where do you want the job to go, and does the current AD like does the current AD need someone else to come in and kind of manage it, like a Mark Bain, but not Mark Bain, but someone else,
Yep.
all those things.
Sam McCune of the World Herald joining us. Before we talk Nebraska football, I want to talk college football. And there were a couple of one major development. So Josh Gaddis was loved at Michigan. Frank Broyles Award winner. He gets hired by Mario Cristobal at Miami. He got fired last week. Tomorrow in Iowa City, they're having their February signing day press conference. I'm very curious if we will get an update on Brian Ferentz's status because the connection with Bill O'Brien now going back to the NFL. If something happens there, when you see an offensive coordinator get fired at the end of January after the go around of portal and early signing period, and we see movement among coordinators in college football, what does it tell us about the value of coordinators right now in college football, if anything?
That's a good question. Well, I think there are a couple of things that I would say. Those two specific circumstances are what they are. I think I've followed a little bit of what's going on at Miami because so much fanfare and fawning was given to Mario Cristobal in the offseason. I mean, big story after big story about how incredible it was going to be and how it's going to get restored. And that hasn't happened yet. And I think Miami, it's completely different from Nebraska, faces some challenges that are specific to Miami that are not easy to overcome. So I find that to be an interesting school to watch. I think there's going to be something happening in Iowa, and certainly the timing of the decision shows that they want to protect their recruiting classes and not lose guys. I think Ferentz has done this before he kind of waits a little longer. Another situation I'll give you is Dante Moore. So he's a quarterback that went to UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to go to Oregon. He's a 5-star, and he's going to go there specifically because of Kenny Dillingham, who's the offensive coordinator there. Dillingham leaves Oregon, takes the Arizona State head coaching job. Moore doesn't follow him, which I thought was interesting, but I think a lot of the reason why he doesn't follow him is because UCLA had a better NIL offering, and UCLA is able to offer the opportunity for Dante Moore to go home because UCLA is joining the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So he's from Detroit. He will be able to play 2 or 3 times a year in, where his family doesn't have to go to Los Angeles to see him. So, but Kenny Dillingham leaving was a big deal too. I think offensive coordinators can be the reason why a program gets going if it's the right play caller and they have the right level of dynamism. And it can also be a situation where you're trying to hide that change, the way Bo Pelini did a long time ago with Sean Watson back in 2011, because you feel like that's a detriment. And usually it's on the offensive side of the ball. If there's a defensive coordinator who needs to go, and I can't remember when Mark Banker was let go, but he was let go sometime, I think, in January of 2017. The defensive coordinator needs to go. That usually just happens a little bit faster, and it doesn't take quite as long. And then the special teams coordinator needs to go. Well, you remember, they let go of $450,000 Bruce Reed one day after the Iowa game in 2016. So I think that offensive coordinator has a unique position, and sometimes you can see head coaches kind of manipulate that a little bit.
So he's going to be known. You can't say Bruce Reed without the
450.
Too. Yeah, 450, the 450 man.
I believe that was. I mean, I think that Gary might have been the person who he
made a lot of money off
that. That was his. That was his move.
Yeah, that's how we always refer to him. Isn't appropriately so.
He would walk out of practice after about an hour of practice. His laundry and
hey, so,
he wasn't doing much.
So there was
and it showed.
Hey, there's some true stories that he loved to golf too. So yeah, he would be somewhere on a golf course before practice would actually be over, because he would go first with the special teams.
Yeah. The round was on him too.
I don't think that'll be Ed Foley's story. I think Ed Foley will go to practice, he'll stay at practice, and then after practice, he'll probably go back into the building, because I think that's what all of Met rules assistants do.
So let's start with Ed, because we met him for the first time yesterday. What were your thoughts on him? What he talked about in the special teams area, but just his personality and how it resonates with all of us that are Nebraskans.
I like his personality. Yeah. I think Nebraskans can be, a little low key, especially the further out you get in Nebraska. A little taciturn. A lot of Nebraskans have a good sense of humor. I don't know where that came from, but we do. But we can be, Nebraskans can be a little quiet. They love it when someone comes in from maybe the East Coast and they have that personality, and Nebraskans get a kick out of that. Nebraskans themselves aren't necessarily always like that, but they like a person who comes in that's got a little bit of pep, is funny, is talking a mile a minute. Nebraskans kind of like that kind of guy. And I think that's just true of Ed. Like, I think that'll be true of him. He can. One of the interesting things about him is he is the oldest member of that staff. And I asked him yesterday, because I felt like he's one of the few guys on the staff who is like, he's here by choice, and he's also, I'm trying to think of the right word here. Like, he's not being mentored by Matt Rule. If you look at Garrett McGuire, Rob Dvorak, even Evan Cooper, who is paid a lot of money, they really like him. And we need to write more about him, because he is clearly a cog in the wheel there, higher up than some of the others. Those guys are, have kind of learned under Matt Rule, whereas I think Ed Foley kind of informs his coaching personality, and will in his own guy, but chooses to be here. And in meeting him yesterday, I was like, well, I can understand why this guy works for Matt Rule. I think most of the coaches who work for Matt need to be kind of young, because he's going to ask a lot of you, and he doesn't want people to be too set in their ways, because he may shift on the fly, and he may change something. And I think Ed Foley is a fit for that. But not every guy that's, in their 50s or 60s would be. I think he is. And that's why I wanted, to see him yesterday. And I thought it made sense why he was that guy.
Terrence Knight, I know we didn't maybe know as much about, other than the well-known nickname Pot Roast. But, I mean, just from what you took away from his interaction with you guys and his sort of overall plan with the defensive line, what stood out?
Oh, he's smart. I think the thing that I appreciated about him is, he understands football really, really, really well. You can tell that by the way that he kind of talked about what it is and what he does. And I think there's just how do I put this? There's a general understanding of people and of how to play the position. And, like, some of his answers were sneaky good. Like, they were. The answer about how, hey, we lost a lot of close games, that's culture.
Yeah.
And, wow. I'm like, yes, it is. He's like, you need, the team, you want the players to take over in the fourth quarter and be able to say we're not losing. That's sort of an NFL mindset, because in the NFL, the coaches affect things, especially with their play calls, but they're not why you win or lose. You're watching a spectacular game on Sunday, one of the best games of the year, even though it kind of ended in a quirky way. And just the quality of the caliber of play, whether it was Chris Jones or Jamar Chase or whomever, the players determine. And so I think when you come from that level of play, you come to realize how important it is for players to have ownership. So I think he will have that with them. It'll be a little different, I think, than Mike Dawson and Tony Tuioti. I think Knighton will be just a little different. They haven't had a coach like that since John Perella, and Perella was different from Knighton too.
Yes, he was.
Knighton's got a little bit more of a laid back personality, and Perella is a little bit more of a Marine-like kind of guy. I think Knighton, he was pretty good. I like him quite a bit.
It'll be interesting, and I know we're fixated on the 3-3-5, and it can be flexible, and it may not always be a true 3-3-5. I thought another interesting point that he made, and this is probably something to watch in spring with the defensive side of the ball, is that they're all learning how this defense is going to work. So it's basically Tony White is teaching the defensive coaches, who then they all have to turn around and teach their players on how this defense is going to work. I think that's a fascinating must-watch on how this is all going to come together on defense, because there are certain parts of the defense that I think we like that put you ahead of the game because of experience there. So I thought that was a sneaky another thing he mentioned yesterday.
He did. So I don't think he quite knows exactly which players he's going to be coaching yet.
Yeah, and that's to be determined on edge rushers or whatever.
Right. And so is he going to be coaching MJ Sherman? I think he had a lot to do with MJ Sherman coming to Nebraska, so I would hope that would be the case. But I think you're going to see those duties maybe get shifted a little bit. Who's going to coach the Joker spot where Javen Wright will probably play? Maybe Luke Gifford. We'll see. We'll see what they decide to do there. Where are they going to move players around at? In my experience, and I'm an amateur and I'm not a coach or a player, these kind of defenses can actually be pretty effective against the run. And in people's minds, they always think, well, I mean, if you're down lineman, it must be harder to stop the run. Actually, they could be better against the run because if you can the fewer guys that you have on the line of scrimmage who are disengaged from blockers and can run unblocked and things like that, the more effective you can be. This Scott Frost used to always tell a story about how Chip Kelly loved seeing a 4-3 because he knew how he could read off the free technique and just run the ball all day long. Four-man fronts, true four-man fronts are actually easier to run the ball against because there's more linemen engaged. The 3-3-5 challenge, to be honest, this seems odd, but it is how do you generate a pass rush from distance? So, like, if you're not on the ball, offensive linemen can see you coming, so it's a little bit easier, and they can get their hands on you sometimes before you can get their hands on them. And so the challenge that Nebraska is going to have in that defense is they were already not a great pass rushing team. If they go to a scheme where you've got guys coming from 4 yards away, well, you better have a good scheme, because a lot of times good linemen, and Big Ten has a lot of them, will lock those guys up, and you'll end up with a 5-man rush, and two of the guys will be 215 pounds, and they're not getting home. So that's the trick that Tony White's going to have to figure out. I do think it'll be a pretty good run stopping team.
It'll be fascinating getting to watch during the spring. Sam, as always, we appreciate it. Have a great day and a great week.
Take care.
It's Sam McEwen of the World Herald. One thing I asked him, keep an eye on tomorrow. So Nebraska, Matt Rule has a 2:00 press conference. Talk about early signing period. Probably some other things. I guess it's his birthday today.
Yes.
I just saw
48
from the football account.
HBD.
3:00 tomorrow in Iowa City. Iowa's holding their late signing day press conference, but I have to believe that there's going to be an update on Brian Ferentz during that, which probably a day that Iowa fans will celebrate.
Yeah, they should.
Teams around the Big Ten will go, dang.
Yeah.
I really think nepotism should be in play in Iowa City. Tomorrow could be a good day for Iowa
really
football,
could be.
but I think that's probably coming with an update.
Mm-hmm.
So keep an eye on that we have talked about. All right, chance to win my booty. It's coming up here in a little bit. Just 2 more opportunities next, and I probably shouldn't have said that because we gave it away. And only one more time for your chance to win.
You're just saying something that's
Miss
special.
that booty.
2 more times.
Booty is all out. Booty tired.
Yeah, it's been a long month for the booty.
We rub the booty, and the booty is dry. 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Remember, no matter how you listen, it's still AM radio. 1620 The Zone. It's time to win Gary's Booty. Be caller 4 right now at 402-951-1620. That's caller 4 at 402-951-1620. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Visit Woodhouse Chevy in Missouri Valley for all your vehicle needs. The 2023 Chevy Equinox delivers safety and technology with style. And now at Woodhouse Chevy, lease a 2023 Equinox for $329 a month for 36 months. Or receive 2.99% APR when you finance through GM Financial. With a knowledgeable and friendly sales staff, you can find your new car, truck, or SUV with confidence. Schedule a test drive of the new Equinox at Woodhouse Chevy. Exit 75 off I-29 Missouri Valley or WoodhouseGM.com. Chevy, find new roads.
Are you looking for tickets for the next big event? Be sure to check out my friends at ticketsforless.com. They're going to take care of you all of the best seats to the biggest local events, and they've also got great seats to events nationwide. Now, the one thing with ticketsforless.com that I love is they never charge per ticket fees. And you know what? With that, you can save hundreds of dollars over other resale websites. You can lock in a special discount right now when you use the special code THEZONE at checkout at ticketsforless.com. Simply enter the code THEZONE at checkout, and you're going to earn an exclusive listener discount. Memories for life start at ticketsforless.com.
I love working on my cars, but I wish I had more space for my shop.
Give General Steel a call. In business for over 30 years and with over 5,000 five-star customer reviews, General Steel can help with projects ranging from RV storage and garages to churches, workshops, and even major construction for Fortune 500 companies. And all General Steel custom buildings are backed by our 50-year warranty.
But that's got to cost a fortune.
Actually, General Steel buildings are more affordable than other building options. And thanks to our highly efficient construction, you can go from dreaming it to enjoying it in no time.
I need to give the General a call. How do I get more information?
Call 866-96-STEEL or visit mygeneralsteel.com to find out what General Steel can do for your home or business. That's 866-96-STEEL. Our team will answer your questions and offer you a customized quote. Just call 866-967-8335 now or mygeneralsteel.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Hear that beat? Let's beat heart disease and be the beat this month. February is American Heart Month, raising awareness of heart disease as the #1 killer of women. Saving a life is easy. Join me in learning hands-only CPR. No class needed. Just push hard, push fast, 2 hands on the chest. The American Heart Association recommends 120 beats a minute. Pick your tune and be the beat to go red for women this month. Visit cpr.heart.org to get started.
Do you like to shoot fireworks? Would you like to get paid to shoot fireworks? J&M Displays wants you. Help shoot an Omaha Storm Chasers game, Memorial Park display, or any of the major shows in Western Iowa and all of Nebraska. If you like to travel, J&M covers Nebraska, Kansas, and most of Missouri. They offer free training and great daily pay rates, which makes it a perfect part-time job. Visit jnmdisplays.com and click the Join Our Team tab to find out more. J&M Fireworks.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
We have a winner in the next to last booty giveaway. Jimmy just talked to our winner, Leighton.
As in Van Der Esch, but not Van Der Esch.
What a great first name.
Great name.
That's a
Love it.
great first name. Hey, are you on TikTok over there?
No. Reaching out to a mutual friend real quick.
All right, we'll tell them hello.
I will.
And if you are on TikTok, check out. That was almost slipped there. Check out Jesse Gardner.
Jesse Gardner.
So, the Nebraska track and field program is amongst the best in the country right now indoor, and we know what they usually do outdoor. It's really, you think about what Gary Pepin left and did during his career. It's pretty amazing how good Nebraska track and field has been for a long time, because you don't immediately think of track and field at Nebraska.
Yeah,
but they're getting a really, really nice outdoor track. Rest in peace, Ed Weir.
Hi-yo.
Ed Weir track.
Never mind.
But they have a pole vaulter named Jesse Gardner, who was really good in high school at Lincoln North Star and now is at Nebraska. And she's great in the classroom and great in her field event. She is blowing up. She is building her brand. So you guys know the name Olivia Dunn.
I was
the
just gonna
gymnast
say,
at LSU.
Yep. She needs security now.
Jesse Gardner on the Nebraska track and field team may be the next.
Hey.
So she doesn't have as many followers. She has
Not yet.
113,000 followers on TikTok. She had a recent TikTok which drew 2.5 million views.
Whoa.
So is she in line for a big name, image, likeness
Hell yeah.
deal? So check out her TikTok. And she's all over Instagram. I mean, she's building a brand.
Yeah, I just saw a couple of the IG posts that just popped up.
And she's really good at her field event. And again, I think she's academic all Big Ten. But yeah, Jesse Gardner could be the next like superstar female athlete in this country on social media.
You're talking about Dunn too. That story was it 2 weeks ago, and she wasn't even involved in one of the. I think she was either injured or something, but they had a meet, and they had to beef up security because she's now got like a.
It was uncomfortable.
It's like a harem of fans, and and it's not like because they're super.
They just
into
love
gymnastics.
that gymnastics.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be uncomfortable for everyone involved, other than those fans.
So what do you think's going to happen? I mean, that's everybody.
I just mentioned Gary Pepin. You in your Deuce mentioned Mark Manning. There's T.O. How difficult would it be? And you can only have 4. We've never really done this. The Mount Rushmore of Nebraska head coaches. You can only have 4. There's
two for sure. 3?
Well,
Devaney, Osborne, and John Cook.
So now you have one spot left.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So save this for the dinner table if you want to get heated in the Nebraska conversation. Your Mount Rushmore of Nebraska head coaches. And 2 spots are already taken. Devaney and T.O.
Yeah. I think you got to put John Cook in there.
Mark Manning just won his 300th.
Yeah.
Gary Pepin dominated.
Yep.
John Cook, Terry Pettit.
And even though it was a short time, I mean, there's a section of people that would say David Van Horn.
Yeah.
He wasn't here very long.
What about
we
Angela
did.
Beck? People remember Angela Beck? First team I did games for, Jimmy, was Nebraska women's basketball. Angela Beck was the head coach. She was wonderful to me. Even when her pants split right in front of me at a game at Oklahoma.
What is it about you and people splitting their pants near you?
Yeah, she ain't no John Bishop. Yeah, she was. She got a little excited and her pants split. I was like, "Oh,
respect."
She didn't. You know what? And she just kept coaching.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like it didn't happen. Didn't even phase her.
All right. So there may be another reason to go to the Frank Savine. They still have the Frank Savine indoor because it's usually in mid-February.
Hey, we're there.
We're there.
Hey,
I'm telling you, because it doesn't get as much attention. The Nebraska track and field program is pretty damn good, and it almost seems like it shouldn't be.
Yeah, yeah.
But man, what they have built, and track and field in this state is really, really good. And you've got Jalen Lloyd, who going to run track at Nebraska, who would draw a lot of attention as well. Good on them because they are really, really good in the indoor season right now. I'm always amazed by that, and probably I shouldn't because they have a long history of some of the greatest athletes ever to perform at Nebraska have been track and field stars. Yeah. So they've got a budding social media star who may be in line for the next huge name, image, likeness. And you look at the female athletes, that is a untapped area. That look at volleyball.
Yeah.
Look at the volleyball players at Nebraska and their exposure that they can do very well in the NIL world. All right. Next hour is upcoming. Brian Christopherson, Andy Kendi, before we are done at 10 on this last day of January. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Time Saving Traffic Center. We're still getting reports of that accident northbound along 192nd Street at Dodge, so please be cautious if you're in that area. On Center, be prepared for some significant slowdowns from 183rd all the way to 168th. Then along Highway 370, be prepared for a delay from 150th all the way to 90th Street. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This Time Saving Traffic was brought to you by the Nebraska Lottery.
The Nebraska Lottery has raised over $908 million, which has helped to provide more than 117,000 college scholarships, save wildlife habitats across the state, and fund new facilities at the Nebraska State Fair. The Nebraska Lottery, helping to build a better Nebraska.
MD West 1 and the Ortho Care are now open on the southwest corner of 192nd and Dodge. MD West 1 is voted the #1 private medical practice. Surgery. MD West 1's new location in Fountain Ridge includes the Ortho and Spine Urgent Care, where walk-ins see the specialist direct or condition. Go to mdwest1.com for details.
Shrimp Fest at Shuck's Fish House starts Sunday, January 29th. New features include harissa, mango habanero, and green curry plus 6 other flavors. All for $5 a dozen at all 3 Shuck's locations. Get the whole scoop on our shrimp at shucksfishhouse.com.
Making plans to watch the big game? Nick Handley here for my friends at DJ's Dugout. Watch the big game at DJ's Dugout. Enjoy big game specials all day, Sunday, February 12th. Get a dozen of DJ's famous wings for just $10. In $5 32-ounce domestic beers and $7 32-ounce specialty and craft beer drafts. Cheer for Kansas City or Philadelphia and gather with friends for the big game at DJ's Dugout. Dig in at the Dugout.
It's the final days to save big store-wide at the Truckload event at Lowe's. Right now, get deals on select major appliances and take home what you buy same day. And save an additional 10% on all in-store clearance appliances. Plus, get savings on even more items across the store, like up to 40% off select bathroom products. Hurry and head to your local Lowe's store or visit Lowe's.com to shop the Truckload event today. Exclusions apply. While supplies last, selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details. Valid 126 through 28.
Hi, friends. Kent Pavelka courtside getting ready for this year's matchup between the Average Roofing Companies and the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. The Average Roofers are just that, average at best, not very impressive. The Rooferees, above and beyond the opponent, more dependable, service that exceeds the norm, good sportsmanship, fairness, and integrity. You know them, you love them, and they're ready to win for you. Make the right call with John Higgins Weather Guard. It's tip-off time with the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per-ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Halftime, brought to you by Heart Cigars and Pipes Lounge, just off 680 and 48th Street next to Cubby's. It's Heart Cigars and Pipes Lounge.
I had to dip my toe in the waters of the Mount Rushmore of
Why'd
head
you do
coaches,
that?
which I usually don't. That
Why'd you do
topic
that?
is like a good run out of stuff to discuss.
Well, you said summer. That's
So Nebraska's tight. We were talking about Creighton's Mount Rushmore. Kirsten Bernthal Booth is on there.
Mhm.
I think Mac has surpassed Dana, and you know what Dana means.
Yep.
Then we were talking about Omaha. Yeah, this is prepare yourself. We'll bring this up in the summers. You got plenty of time,
Yeah.
boys, to prepare for this.
Plan ahead. July 20th.
Just during the commercial break, we went through, Creighton, Omaha, Nebraska, and trying to get that fourth spot, even spots 3 and 4, it is not easy.
The Nebraska one is very, very difficult because
Yeah.
you can't have one without 2 football coaches.
Right.
And there are probably 5 or 6 candidates for the last 2 spots.
Yep.
Speaking of track, Terry, shout out Terry. We won't hold it against him that his daughter plays golf at Iowa. People know who I'm talking about. She's doing very, very well, by the way. But why did she go? Well, I've already asked Terry in person. Roll side. Also, don't forget about Darius Luff, graduated from Lincoln High, who I believe, if I'm looking at the program last year at State Track and Field, I think he still holds the Class A record for 110-meter hurdles. He's in the top 2 in the country. There you go. That's just another. This track in this state, as much as I would like to share it with spring football, track and field in the state of Nebraska, male and female, is pretty damn good. There are athletes that probably could go and play football, and they would give up their track career. That are deciding, I'll play track, I'll run track over playing football.
Well, and you got an Olympic hopeful in this upcoming class too.
Well, and this is historically this has been a really good state for track and field.
This goes all the way back to when I was in high school. We had everyone from the high jump, not just runners too, like actual field events too. So, would you like me to elaborate on that?
If you would like. Not up to speed on Millard West.
No, this was actually Millard South. When I was at Millard South.
That's right. You went to every high school in Millard.
Well,
you got in the portal a couple of times.
I did.
That's impressive. I didn't know this about you.
Millard South 2 years, and then when Millard West opened, we were sectioned into Millard West. So I was there at Millard West, and then I coached baseball at Millard North. So I've dipped my toe into all 3. But actually, one of my ex-girlfriends from Millard South was an elite track and field, elite long jumper. Ended up going to Iowa State.
If someone says to you, this is curious because I'm kind of this is a leading question. If you say, what is Millard known for in terms of sports?
Oh God,
what would you say?
It depends on what year we're talking about. Because I'm still, and it's been going on for a handful of years now, that Millard North is a basketball school, which is mind blowing to me. Because when I was in high school, Millard North was a football school first and foremost, but pretty good at baseball. Millard South, they had their state title in 95. I would say the collection of the 3 Millard schools, I remember them still as having a football identity. Talking about, the late Marty Going, to Andy Means, to Dan McLaughlin when he was there before he turned over to Kirk Peterson, and Fred Petito, who's been there. Fred's been there, forever. See him at Hy-Vee all the time. And
I was disappointed that he did not pose with the football coaches that were Millard North. That would have warmed the cockles.
It's just not Fred's thing. Fred don't play that game.
I know he doesn't. Aiden writes into the Equitable Bank inbox. Millard, known for losing to Prep from back in my day.
Oh, you know what?
I got, as this become a popular term, I got no dog in the hunt. So Prep and Millard, let's go at it. I will just be the facilitator.
I can give
the
you
instigator.
I can give you the Millard North, and I want to make sure I give the correct year and give the credit. Millard North 03 was a juggernaut, and they smoked Creighton Prep in the state finals. Smoked them.
All right, Aiden won, Nick won.
Yeah,
John.
That was a Potter team too for Prep.
John Higgins last night worked another college basketball game. Higgy is a proud partner of our radio station. Full disclosure, good friend of mine, who I respect. I love the hair, love the tan year round. Good dude. Okay, he's in it for the right reason, especially in this community with youth basketball. You see him a lot. He'll go and officiate games. He'll help younger officials. He is one of the best in the business when it comes to college basketball. And I think most people are aware that in college basketball, you're an independent contractor. So you can kind of set your schedule. And we see whether it be Higgy or Kip Kissinger or Brooks Wells, they're all over the place. I mean, there's not really a night that goes by that you're not flipping through the channels watching a college basketball game, and there's not an official from Nebraska that's working a game. And so I'm very curious on why now, because he's kind of had this schedule for a long time. And no one ever says, outside of Kentucky people, which get off, say, oh man, Higgins is awful. Okay. Coaches want him working their games.
Yep.
Okay. And he's had as he has risen to this level, this elite level of college basketball officials, he's had this kind of schedule. I mean, I've shared flights with him and we talked about his schedule, and, you know, he knows, like, he spends a lot of time down in the Phoenix area. So he knows what flight you can work a day and what flight you can take, to get a direct flight from Omaha. He knows all the flight schedules. Okay. He knows the travel schedules. You're the first flight in, first flight out, all that kind of stuff, where to stay, rental car, boom, 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 how to play the game. So I'm just wondering why now all of a sudden this has come up, because his schedule has been like this. But let me just give you an indication. He worked on Tuesday at Rutgers a week ago today.
Okay.
And then he flew across the country and worked a nighttime game at San Diego.
That was Thursday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a Thursday night game.
And then staying in the that time zone, flies up the coast to Corvallis. Then he has Friday off. What do you think he did on his off day between Corvallis and Palo Alto?
Oh,
maybe go for a peaceful walk, nice meal, watch a little TV.
Does he golf? I don't know.
So Saturday he was at Stanford. Then, and that was a late tip.
Right.
Then he flew probably to Indianapolis. And then it's the short drive north from Indianapolis to West Lafayette, and worked a noon game.
That's the most impressive part. Man.
And then he flew from, let's say, Indianapolis or maybe Chicago, because you could fly into Chicago and drive to West Lafayette.
Yeah.
I mean, both of those airports are pretty accessible with some direct flights. And maybe Chicago, because I imagine he flew a red eye from San Francisco to Chicago. And then last night he was in Austin working the Texas Baylor game. I think this is the chatter, is that he is working in Lawrence tonight for Kansas State.
Well, and I don't know if we've
KU.
seen him in the building, and I always think of Hickey in Allen. And that's long before working here. He always did big games there, going back to when I was in school.
Yeah.
I always remember Higgy, and I remember Steve Welmer.
I feel like every big Monday game in Lawrence he was typically doing.
So why do you guys think now people are bringing up his schedule?
Like in a bad way, or just?
Well, this has been going. He's not the only one.
No,
this is what college basketball officials do. Like, especially the good ones that are wanted and they can set their own schedule. They work a lot of basketball games. But I'm just curious why all of a sudden, like Sunday, because somebody asked about it, we talked about it yesterday, and then last night when he's doing the Texas Baylor game, they actually put up a graphic. I wonder why now this has become an issue. Because I watched the entire game last night. There was no, him and his crew were fine.
Yeah, and that's the only reason I think it would ever be brought up is maybe you get wind of it. It's a story just because it's like, okay, everybody knows John Higgins. You want to know what it's like in the life of a contractor, a long-time referee who's well-respected within the country. Here's how his week was. How was your week? Because here's how his week was with travel. And I don't think it's anything to sort of indicate that, boy, the guy's tired, he's burnt out. But I don't like them doing that, because let's say you do miss a call. Let's say there is
So you're
something
going to say
that gets
you
a
missed
little
the
crazy.
call because you're
You're
worn
jet
out and
lagged.
you're not sleeping.
Yeah,
You're creating something.
You're on the final leg of what was a ridiculously exhausting week. Then it brings more attention to, how many times do we, how many days off in between games, especially when you're jumping from the Pacific time zone to the East times, East Coast, East Central time, Eastern Standard Time to Central Time Zone. Like, I understand what their intent of maybe bringing light to it, of like, talk about Iron Man here. But if you were to, as you're posting that, let's say, a couple calls are a little suspect or you miss a call, then it's going to be like, well, this guy clearly needs to get more rest. It does more damage than good, in my opinion.
So if you're an independent contractor, and Higgy is paid very well. I mean, he's been in the game for a long time.
Probably had a really profitable week.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he is, when you're working big time games, you are paid a big time salary. Now, just to add to this before I finish that thought, so he took the red eye from San Francisco to Chicago. He got into Chicago at 6 a.m. It's just a 2-hour drive to West Lafayette. There was a 12 o'clock tip. So you could have slept on the flight, right?
Yeah.
Cup of coffee or breakfast.
Now,
and-
here's a discussion, because officiating is being discussed a lot, all across every sport out there.
What do you say
about the quality of officiating? And what's your solution, people? I'm open ears, but what is your solution to officiating? But let me finish this thought on this, because when I say what is your solution, a lot of people say, well, you got to make them full time. Well, I mean, got a full time job, owns a business.
Right.
I mean, Clete Blakeman, very successful attorney.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, looked really, really good at the Creighton game on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
He would look even better working in Arrowhead.
Hey, buddy. Talk about taking a red eye.
But so what is the thing? Well, let's make them full-time officials. Some of these guys would probably have to take pay cuts.
Yeah, they would.
Right.
But what if the Big Ten, which is about to walk into a lot more money than Terry Bradshaw's briefcase,
or Gary's booty,
would say, we've got all this extra money, we will have full-time officials and we will pay them accordingly? Would some of these officials say,
take it?
I'm in?
I think some of them would. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if this is where I've always envied my friends that are teachers. I get you don't make as much money as you should. And I don't even care how much that salary has increased over, the past few decades. But you know what I've always envied? Man, you get that summer off. So you could still work if you want to. You could do nothing. You could do whatever you want to do. And I would think if there is a full-time officiating gig. Now, that doesn't mean when college basketball is not going on, you're just sitting on your butt doing nothing. I mean, if you're going to be full-time, there's going to be accountability. There's going to be clinics. There's going to be, I would assume, a year-long process that is going to keep you sharp at your game and trying to give you the resources and tools to make it a big difference if you're investing something like that in it. But are you telling me that there's not going to be some lag time where you're able to, maybe have a month or so, kind of an off season where you could enjoy that, depending on what it would pay and how you could invest into that? I think it'd be very appealing, especially for a lot of young officials.
If I gave you benefits, health, all of that stuff, you were an employee of the Big Ten, how many top-level officials would say, I'm in, I will just work your conference?
Now this goes back to what you just brought up about Higgins, and even if we're talking about Cleat, obviously different sports. It depends on where you are in your life. Are you established with something else full time? Do you own a business? Maybe you don't want to give that up. But I go back to, I think, a lot of maybe some of the younger groups of officials that don't have that going on in their life. I think I think it would be very popular. And I think you get some really good ones too. I think some of the more long established ones are probably like, yeah, you know what? I can do this part-time because I got other things in my life that I, put my focus 100% into. This is something that I'm able to balance. But I think there's others that are probably hoping for the day.
Like Kevin Marr lives here in Omaha. He's got a really good job, but he went from being, white hat in the Pac-12. He's now a white hat in the Big 12, and he works a lot of the Big 12 games.
Yeah.
Again, his real job, his full-time job, pays him really well. I mean, would he consider, Big 12 is going to have full-time football officials? I'm in to give up his livelihood that he has here in Omaha. I think we're getting to the point, and we've talked about this for a long time, and it's a profession that we say we appreciate, but probably we don't appreciate enough, and we don't put ourselves into the shoes of the men and women that officiate, and we don't follow suit and say, hey, I will help out and I will become an official, is we've got all this discussion, and especially yesterday, and this is an exhausting discussion about officiating when it comes like to the NFL that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And prominent people are saying, you know what, the NFL might be rigged.
Yeah.
Well, if the NFL was rigged, wouldn't the Cowboys and Packers be playing in the Super Bowl?
Actually, I was going to say that yesterday.
Two largest.
Yeah.
But when we do this, we have to shift the conversation, and this is going to be on me, is what's the solution? If you think American sports has a officiating problem, what's the solution?
Robo
Right.
umps.
And nobody
Well-
ever comes with
well,
that after.
So there's part of sports that we love the human element,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's going to be weird to go out to Warner Park this year and see a home plate
Mhm.
umpire is there, but they don't have any authority over the game because it's robo balls and strikes.
Because there's going to be
Are we going to be going, oh my God, thankfully, or
No.
oh, I miss arguments.
Yeah, or
miss-
yeah, exactly. Like managers and even fans being like, that didn't look like a strike. Well, RoboUmp said it was.
You are
and you
wrong.
can't yell at the human because he's just getting his orders. He's getting the beep, strike, ball. It's like, what? And if you're the umpire, you're just like,
Ball
what do you want me to
four.
do?
Take your
we'll,
base.
We'll get Higgy on before the NCAA tournament. Make sure you guys remind me. The first question I'm going to ask to him: how many friggin' miles do you have, or air
Yeah.
miles, and hotel points?
I'm envious.
I mean, are you a medallion member? What's the
It has
highest
to be.
level for like Marriott? What am I in Marriott? I'm
Let's
not.
see.
I'm
Is
not
it-
that high, but
is there like a
See.
is there Chrome? Is there a Chrome? Are you
we
Chrome
were
status?
We were in college doing a game against Kentucky, and we were chatting it up with Steve Welmer during a timeout, and we asked how many games do you, because we saw them all the time. It was always Steve or Higgy, and you'd see them, and we asked him how many games do you do, and I'll never forget. So this is about 06. He says he does about 100 to 120 a season. And he was doing 5 that week, and that was number 5, and then he was going to get a day break, and then he had another one on a Monday because this was a Saturday. So I've always thought about that. I was like, man, these guys work hard. And he told us, yeah, a lot of ice bags and then a lot of frequent flyer miles.
Nick in the Equitable Bank inbox says, really? They work 2.5 hours a day.
2.5 hours a day. Yeah. Okay. That's all the time they put into that.
Brian Christopherson and Andy
Show up and play
Kendi
golf.
coming up in the next hour. All of that and much more. Plus, Cindy Williams passed away at the age of 75.
Saw that up on.
You both paused.
Yes.
I'm guessing you were not fans of Laverne and Shirley.
No, I
knew-
heard this last night.
Yeah, last night I saw it. Yeah. I knew it was
So
Laverne and
that
Shirley.
means who else? There's only one person left, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I forgot his name. The Big Ragu. I think he's still alive.
Is he?
I hope so. I'll get on the
I think
IMDb.
Lenny is still alive.
Oh yeah, Lenny's still
Okay.
alive.
Mm.
Michael McKean, is he still alive?
I don't know. The show should have never left Milwaukee. That's my hot take on Laverne and Shirley. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, the 2023 Mazda CX-50 is at Woodhouse Mazda, the Omaha Metro's exclusive Mazda dealer. And let me tell you, I was driving around in this thing yesterday. This crossover, it's got everything from the inside out. First of all, just a tough look to it, man. It just looks great. Love the overall comfort. It comes equipped with the Mazda Intelligent Drive Select technology. Just the trunk space, too. And I talk about ready for every outdoor adventure. There's so much room to fit whatever cargo you're hauling for any of your outdoor activities. This is the ultimate vehicle for all those outdoor adventures. Also a big fan of the adaptive front lighting system, which allows you to drive confidently through dark, winding roads as you turn a corner. All great safety technology, as well as the infotainment system that you will get from every Mazda. Set up a test drive today and chat with a live sales rep. Finance and even purchase online at WoodhouseMazda.com or WoodhousePlaceMazda.com. Get out and see the Mazda CX-50 for yourself. It stands out. You're going to love it. Check it out at Woodhouse Mazda in Bellevue or Woodhouse Place Mazda in Millard and enjoy a knowledgeable and no-pressure sales atmosphere. And again, it's why I and so many others are Woodhouse customers for life. Woodhouse Mazda, a drive worth experiencing.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. The Connor Happer Show.
There's no one in the history of sport who loves to hit you with a video of himself chopping wood at 4:30 in the morning more than Justin James Watt. And he wants you to know about it because you're lazy and he's the hardest worker in the room. I say, if we're going to be okay with putting mediocre players in the Hall of Fame, then sure, what better place to start than J.J. Watt? Wow.
The Connor Happer Show, weekdays from 10 to 2 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Another frigid start Tuesday with wind chill values dipping below zero early on. Morning clouds will give way to plenty of afternoon sunshine, though staying cold with highs in the mid to upper 20s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley, brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine on 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the time-saving traffic center, we have a couple of accidents to report, starting with one near 84th Street at Loveland Drive, so please be cautious if you are in that area. Then we also have an accident to report near 144th and Blondo, so please be cautious if you are in that area as well. Then on Dodge, be prepared for a bit of a slowdown from 80th to 67th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by the Nebraska Lottery.
The Nebraska Lottery has raised over $908 million, which has helped to provide more than 117,000 college scholarships, save wildlife habitats across the state, and fund new facilities at the Nebraska State Fair. The Nebraska Lottery, helping to build a better Nebraska.
Duck Defense Midwest makes your home healthier and improves the life of your HVAC system. So improve the health of your home and everyone in it. Go to cleanairradio.com for a special duct cleaning offer for Zone listeners. That's cleanairradio.com.
Creighton Sports Update. Creighton women's basketball is back at DJ Sokol Arena on Wednesday as they host DePaul on National Girls and Women's in Sports Day. Tip-off is set for 6 p.m. Limited tickets are available online at gocreighton.com/tickets. That's Creighton versus DePaul on Wednesday at 6 p.m. And that's your Creighton Sports Update.
1620 The Zone proudly supports Creighton Athletics.
Making plans to watch the big game? Nick Handley here for my friends at DJ's Dugout. Watch the big game at DJ's Dugout. Enjoy big game specials all day, Sunday, February 12th. Get a dozen of DJ's famous wings for just $10. And $5 32-ounce domestic beers and $7 32-ounce specialty and craft beer drafts. Cheer for Kansas City or Philadelphia and gather with friends for the big game at DJ's Dugout. Dig in at the Dugout.
Creighton coverage on the Zone is presented by Barry Law. At Barry Law, we fight alongside those who choose to fight back. Call Barry Law at 402-999-7777 or visit BarryLawFirm.com. At Barry Law, we're in it to win it.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call in the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
Do you like to shoot fireworks? Would you like to get paid to shoot fireworks? J&M Displays wants you. Help shoot an Omaha Storm Chasers game, Memorial Park display, or any of the major shows in Western Iowa and all of Nebraska. If you like to travel, J&M covers Nebraska, Kansas, and most of Missouri. They offer free training and great daily pay rates, which makes it a perfect part-time job. Visit jnmdisplays.com and click the Join Our Team tab to find out more. J&M Fireworks.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. It's time for the Deuce with Jimmy Chavez on 1620 The Zone. All the headlines you need in 2 minutes or less.
Gary and Nick, we're talking a little bit about Nebraska track and field a little bit ago. Their men's track and field team continued its climb up the national rankings as it moved up 4 spots to number 6. The last time Husker men were ranked as high as 6th was in 2015 in the preseason poll, and the NU men are on the verge of their first top 5 ranking in 10 years. Washington, Texas Tech, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Georgia make up the top 5 teams. Meanwhile, the Nebraska women entered the rankings at number 20 on Monday. The Huskers are the highest-ranked Big Ten program in both men's and women's track and field, at least in the national rankings. The Los Angeles Chargers have a new offensive coordinator. Well, that didn't take long. It's Kellen Moore, the former Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator. After less than 24 hours after the Cowboys released a statement that said Moore and the team had reached a mutual decision to part ways following an end-of-season review process, and it's looking like Mike McCarthy is going to call the plays.
Is he unemployed for 12 hours?
If
About-
that.
Hey,
Didn't you say 10 minutes? Pretty close, too.
whatever
was good.
Jerry Jones, he must have there's got to be pictures or something that he has invested in Mike McCarthy, that a guy that has game and clock management, they're going to allow him to call the plays. Now, I'd be very curious to see who the OC and quarterback coach is in Dallas, but man.
Do you think that's
Jerry
why
Jo-
Dan Quinn stayed?
Does this go back to the sleepover that they had at Jerry Jones? Maybe he
I
saw
don't
some
know,
stuff.
man.
I don't know.
Jerry Jones has gone all in on Mike McCarthy.
Mhm.
It's not all about LeBron. Russell Westbrook passes Gary Payton for number 10 on the NBA's all-time assist list during the Lakers' 121-104 loss at Brooklyn last night. Russ finished with 17 points, 10 assists, and 8 rebounds. No one talks about that. That's all on LeBron, but understandably so. Purdue becomes the season's first unanimous number 1 team in the AP poll after wins over Michigan and Michigan State. And there was chaos behind them. Number 7 and number 8 meet tonight in Lawrence, speaking of John Higgins and college basketball tonight. So
Yeah, that's where we think he's at tonight. He's making his way back home.
Good.
There is a crazy, not our stat of the day. Nick will have that here in a little bit. There's a crazy stat out there. So Washington last night went to San Antonio and beat the Spurs, who are tanking for Victor.
Oh, they did beat him. Okay.
So
I know what this is.
For the 27th, so that was they hadn't won there. That was the first time they had won in a long time. They broke a 22-game losing streak in San Antonio.
Yeah.
But the Wizards, Bill Simmons tweeted this out, and I went and looked this up, and he's right. For the 27th straight year, either the Bullets or the Wizards are 24-26 through 50 games.
That's a stat.
27 straight years, the Bullets or the Wizards are 24-26 through 50 games.
That's crazy.
That is unbelievable.
That is crazy.
Called consistency, kids.
That's crazier than the last time Washington won, which was at the Alamo Dome on December 11th, 1999. I was there with Dad.
Wow.
Mitch Richmond was the leading scorer that night with 31, and former Spurs great Rod Strickland had 11.
Damn, I got a great memory.
Oh.
I mean, I read the stat line, but I remember the game.
Rod Strickland from DePaul.
DePaul.
So Creighton plays tomorrow night at Georgetown. Nebraska's in action tonight against Illinois. Doesn't essentially the Big East, which is a 4-team race. You have Xavier, Providence, Marquette, and Creighton. I'm throwing out UConn. I am not buying UConn.
I'm with you.
People have a love affair with UConn. And I know we had Tim Kruger on yesterday, and he's got the metrics, and that makes sense. They're living off a couple of victories before the Big East began. So essentially it's a 4-team race. But and they still have games against each other.
Yeah.
Like Creighton still has a trip to Providence, but they get Marquette at home. Doesn't the Big East title essentially come down to, can you beat DePaul, Butler, St. John's, or Georgetown?
Yeah.
The bottom of the Big East. Creighton has a trip to Chicago. They have a trip to New York City, and they have 2 against Georgetown, including tomorrow night. Xavier and Providence play that foursome 5 times. They have 5 games amongst that foursome. I think the winner of the Big East comes out of, what do you do against the teams that are at the bottom of your league? Because I think they're going to be, top of, you're going to knock each other off. But you got DePaul once, you got St. John once, and you got Georgetown twice, and you're done with Butler, and you swept Butler.
Can I really quickly go back to UConn? Remember when they had their that initial slide, and then they played Creighton and they won that game. It was watching, even in the Creighton victory, but then kind of what followed, something didn't sit right with me with UConn. And so I don't, are we, I'm glad you said it because I think people, because of reputation, refuse to sort of eliminate UConn from that group. But at some point, we always talk about this in every sport, at some point, losses matter. And as you get into this month, maybe UConn just figures it out. But as you start to kind of get to the end of January, into February, you kind of are what you are. You feel like, okay, this is kind of who you're going to be. Now, UConn, yeah, they're going to make the tournament. But go back a month ago, do they still have that same type of presence that we thought UConn had? Where it looked like, oh, they're kind of, if it's not Creighton after that 6-game losing streak, it's going to be UConn. UConn is kind of resembling the old Villanova under Jay Wright. I just don't. I think I guess what I'm getting at is I think it's okay to say UConn is maybe in the second tier right now. I really think they are.
The bracketology people will tell you that you are wrong. Lenardi, I just saw this, has them as a 5. He has Oral Roberts, by the way, as a 12, who beat South Dakota by 40 last night. The only team that competes against Oral Roberts in the Summit League is Omaha. Lost by 3 at home, and then had the ball with about 3 minutes to go on Saturday night and had the lead against ORU.
Mm-hmm.
And, Omaha's tied for 8th in the Summit League. But Oral Roberts going in as a 12 seed would be dangerous. Lenardi today, here we go, that hotel reservation in my hometown, those tickets I have at Wells Fargo. He's got Creighton as a 7 playing Arkansas again. Remember the Musselman got into it.
Mm-hmm.
The narcissist got into it with the Creighton fans. He has Creighton and Arkansas playing. And guess who they would play in Des Moines?
As a 3 if they
Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I knew KU would be there.
It'd be for the second straight year in the second
in the
round
of
Creighton and
32.
KU would be playing.
And hopefully you'd have Kalkbrenner.
If they're
part of this
healthy,
matchup,
my money would be on Creighton.
I said it. I don't.
Because they would have won
know.
last year.
See, as we're just talking about UConn, I don't know what to make of Kansas. There's limitations there. There truly is limitations with that team, but
death, taxes, and bill self.
Right.
So they'll be there.
KU's back, baby. They went into Rupp Arena.
They did. And that was it. And see, that was
Did
the
you
win you
notice?
guys, I think, were talking about earlier in the week that they didn't get, where there's always a little bit of a slide. Even if it's bad basketball that they're winning, there's a little bit of a slide. And then they get one that can kind of turn it around. Tonight, I said this 2 weeks ago when they lost to K-State. I said they'll beat them in Lawrence. I think that will be the case. But if they do beat them in Lawrence, okay, this maybe takes on a similar KU path. But they're a team that, quite honestly, I think we know it. This isn't breaking news. They just don't have the options they had a year ago. Big man play. Adams was good in that game against Kentucky, but he's not a true big man.
The game may be over by the third media timeout. Seen this so many years before where K-State comes in there and they're just overwhelmed, and it's nothing against K-State, and it's not saying, oh, KU's this juggernaut. It just happens all the time.
I think it's going to be a battle. I think KU pulls it up, but I think it's going to be a
I would enjoy
battle
watching a
at the
battle
end.
from a basketball standpoint.
Will
but
Jalen Hurts be there tonight?
He might.
And which
maybe he's
bench?
making the tour.
I could make more of a case that he has a connection to KU or K-State
Big
than
12?
Syracuse or Virginia. Yeah.
Some Big 12 there.
Yeah.
Did you notice Bill Self ditched the quarter zip? That's how you know desperate
Was
times.
he wearing a suit?
He went suit jacket.
All the
'cause
coaches
it was
did that
the-
this
It was
weekend.
a suits and sneakers week.
Yeah.
But they won, so does he stick with it?
No.
I think those
Well,
coach love.
So Mac for the first
zip.
time since the COVID year.
Had a
And he
tie
looked
on.
great.
Yeah.
Had the pink coat and the tie. Was it really pink though? It's kind of more of a salmon. It's hard to go full pink with the suit coat, but
It sounds better to say I'm wearing salmon.
it does.
I look good in salmon.
Do you? Is that your
Mhm.
color?
Yeah, I don't wear it enough.
Well, you should do that.
I've seen more coaches, especially in the Summit League, like Omaha's staff. I think Coach Crutchfield is a pretty good dresser.
Mhm.
He's got a good collection. His wife Jody hooks him up. He likes to wear suits. They're not as casual.
Yeah.
But I think like last night, what Iowa State staff was wearing, polos, which gray polos with just a little script Iowa State throws me off. They don't have the logo on it.
Yeah.
Now that we're into, what things look like when Nebraska releasing their baseball uniforms yesterday. Mark Adams at Texas Tech, who just walks around with his arms folded the entire time. And even when things are good for Texas Tech, he was wearing a quarter
very stern
zip. Hey, those uniforms that were released, I immediately thought of Nebraska wore those uniforms in the 90s. When I first started to hang around Nebraska baseball in Big Red, the late John Sanders was the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the uniforms that Nebraska wore, that script. They do pop in what they released yesterday.
Yeah.
So I know Trev is big on, we're not going to have 56 different combinations of uniforms. When it's not football, doesn't it seem like Adidas has a better vibe for the non-football uniform?
Yeah. Totally agree. But with the baseball release, I feel like the last couple of years, and one of them they even said, hey, we're going back to old school. And, with Will Bolt wanting to reintroduce the black uniforms for a series victory.
You should only wear the black uniforms, the black tops, when you're playing in Austin on an AstroTurf field on a Monday and the on-field temp is 113 degrees.
But a lot of those uniforms are like, hey, check out this new, fresh look. I'm like, they've done that before.
That was crisp and clean.
It looks good, though. I love that. The all white with that kind of script is it's sharp looking, but I feel like they've done that before. Don't sell it to me as if it's a new look. It's not new. It's just
a lot of excitement for college baseball around here. Red, blue, and black Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to buy a program to go see Nebraska play because they got 25 new players. And Will's gotten his 1-year get-out-of-jail-free card.
Mm-hmm. 2020 doesn't really count.
People get really excited. And maybe it's the weather and baseball is on the horizon. And so you buy the season ticket and you get excited this time of the year. And I do agree that, and you were around it last year as a play-by-play guy, the chemistry for Nebraska baseball will be better.
Yep.
Okay. I got the sense, no inside knowledge, that the head coach hated that team by mid-March. Like, just couldn't stand those guys. And it was a gots-to-go situation.
Mm-hmm.
And you started to figure out who was not going to be there.
Yeah.
And it was the middle of March.
Yep.
I do believe, and I've known Will long enough, that when he says he likes this team, I do believe he likes this team a lot more than last year. And that's saying something because they have 25 new players. But he got his get-out-of-jail-free card, and they have to be competitive in the Big Ten Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts that you have to be here in Omaha at the end of May.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you got to be in the NCAA tournament, which would help, but you do have some challenges in that conference, and there are better teams in that conference than you. But bare minimum, you must be playing in Omaha. But I wonder if people off of last year, and even though it's this time of the year and the weather's nice, you've tempered expectations. I think there's, Creighton it's either UConn or Creighton in the Big East.
Yeah.
And it's too bad because those are really only two programs that go at it, and Creighton cares the most about baseball. And then you get another year of Mike Bovee playing for Evan, who Mike Bovee might turn out to be the best college baseball player in this state, third baseman for Omaha. So I think there's some excitement for college baseball, but I'm always curious about, it seems like Nebraska baseball this time of the year, when you're closing in on a couple of weeks and the weather is cold, and Nebraska baseball will either have a press conference or, like yesterday, people are like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious. I wonder if people have tempered their expectations in Nebraska baseball after last year and with so many new faces. Thank God the guys like Max Anderson and Bryce are there, and Kyle Perry and some other guys, because other than that, everybody's new.
They're new, but I think you mentioned what Will feels about this team. When he started realizing, a lot of guys that I think he expected to grow up last year didn't. We'll just put it that way. A lot of guys that he thought, coming off of that Big Ten championship team that was very close to making a super and getting out of Arkansas, that core group, you had your super seniors, meant a lot. I think he felt, and I think a lot of people naturally felt, there were some younger guys in the fold that were kind of playing under those guys' wing, that they would sort of carry that on. And some struggled with it. And again, I'll go back to this. Some guys just flat out didn't or haven't grown up. And you're going to see a group of kind of with how people remember Will Bolt as a player. You're going to have a lot of competitive, hungry dogs out there. Guys that are going to be relentless in trying to stick in the starting lineup. Yeah, so the first trip out to San Diego, I mean, it's going to be highly competitive.
And they're not expected to be first or second preseason in the Big Ten.
Nope.
I mean, Nebraska baseball.
They were preseason number 1 last year.
I mean, Nebraska baseball probably 5th. Maryland is really good.
Fair.
Rutgers was shut out of the NCAA tournament despite winning 44 games.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa is really, really good. I think Illinois will be improved.
Mm-hmm.
You have Indiana. And Tracy Smith is at Michigan, so he's back in the league. So I don't know. I just wonder if people have tempered their expectations for Nebraska baseball, because they will be probably. I think in any preseason poll that's put out in the Big Ten, they're probably the 4th, 5th, or 6th best team, because they're not in the category of Maryland, who is a top 25 program.
Well, the problem though that Nebraska baseball unfortunately faces is you're not so far removed from the Big Ten championship from 2 years ago. The segue into the season though, with basketball struggling.
Yeah, I think
you hope for better things, and so I think that does put some more on baseball.
That's a good point, because you get to it's been a crappy football basketball season. Will Bolt save us? That's why the disappointment of last year.
Mm-hmm.
Will Bolt did not save you.
And you did have the expectations because, hey, not only were you coming off a Big Ten championship, but okay, what's the media saying about it? People who cover this group, what are they saying? Preseason number 1. All right, then that's where my head is. Until they knock you off, that's where my head is. And so you got some things that I think are still going to go in the expectation realm that are going to be a little bit maybe on the higher side. But, guys that this is a huge year for Max Anderson. This is a huge year for Bryce Matthews. Those are 2 guys, and I don't want to say these guys were part of the didn't grow up, but these were the guys that I felt like once they were kind of supposed to be more in that leadership role, like you saw like the Jackson Hallmarks and whatnot, they didn't adjust to that as well as I think Will would have liked to, but there's so much damn talent between those 2 that you're not giving up on them. But you're also going to surround other guys with those guys. You're going to surround them with a lot of competitive guys. So it's either kind of sink or swim with them. And it's a huge year for those 2.
And I think they realize that. There's a sense of urgency. Yeah. Well, this is because their money year as well.
Yep. Especially Max. 2 years in the Cape Cod League, doing good things in the Cape Cod League. He's known, but you follow that up with your season too. We'll see.
But I gotta go to Maryland and to Iowa. Their home schedule is not great.
No, it's not.
Like the conference portion of the home schedule is not great.
Mm-hmm. Iowa, won't have to do a game in the ticket booth this time though, because they'll need that ticket booth.
I'm still blown away by you had to do a game there.
I got pictures. I'll show them.
All right. Well, as we get closer, the opening weekend is coming up. The first day of college baseball is February 17th. So we'll have all 3 head coaches on again.
Mm-hmm.
We'll ask Ed Service. Does Ed Service love anything more in his life than his camouflage Creighton ball cap? Everywhere I see it, Ed's wearing that. It's a great look. He loves the rest of the team's wearing and they got a couple of different hats they wear.
Yeah.
Ed's wearing the camouflage cap,
which
is fantastic.
Usually you don't always see the veteran skipper donning the camo, but you're right.
All right. Brian Christopherson will join us at the top of the hour, but let's talk to Brandon. Brandon, thanks for the call. Welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. I thought your conversation about officials was really interesting and could provide some perspective as a Division I softball official.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think some of the things like what I teach, that's part of what I do as my real job. And then obviously with the season starting next week, I will travel pretty much every weekend throughout the whole season, to do softball all across the country. I think part of being official at that level, it's harder as a softball official because in perspective of what Higgins does, those guys carry on their uniform. It's just carries on. They don't spend anything on that. They're in and out of planes. That doesn't work for me when I have to check my gear bag. My gear has to make it with, my equipment and all the stuff I have to have just to play the game, let alone, everything else that I'd wear for a 3-game series. And then on top of that, us officials at that level, we have to front all of our travel in and all of that ahead of the season.
Mhm.
So in perspective, I've fronted probably about $5,000 or more just on flights and, booking all that stuff ahead of time before the season even comes. Would I love to be paid full time as an official for, 4 months out of the season? I don't know if the Big Ten would do that and what they would consider a smaller sport that's not basketball or football per se. I would love that, but the reality is that we don't make that much because we really make a small travel fee plus our game fee for that as well. Everything else we have to front. So if you're not doing like in Higgins' world, if you're not doing 25, 30, 40, 50 games in the season, it's not really worth your time.
Now, Brandon, you are an independent contractor as well?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you set your I know that we have organizations that, and I'm more familiar with baseball on like supplying umpires for non-con in Omaha and with Creighton in Omaha and then Nebraska down in Lincoln. Do you set your own schedule?
So we have a platform that gets assigned that we use, that our signers use to sign games.
Mhm.
You go into that platform and you can block off weekends that, I don't want to work this weekend. They won't assign you anything. But the expectation is at the Division I level, if you get assigned a weekend series, you're not turning it back. Because if you say no, then you don't get any more games the rest of the season. So when I get whatever I get, I usually say yes to. Generally, we know about mid to end of November into December. We know what we're working, so we can try to get our travel booked ahead of time. But there's that professional expectation that I give you a series. For example, the lady who assigns the Big Ten, I give you a series at Rutgers. You're going to be there. You're not going to say no. You're going to be there, and I don't have to worry about you because you're going to be there. But that means I have to front all of that ahead of time to make sure that I can get there. And then when I work this series, a few weeks after that, then we get paid for that.
Gotcha.
So,
Are you opening up in a warm place next weekend?
at the University of Charlotte, I don't know if that's going to be super warm, but it'll be a little bit different than being in the bitter cold right now where you go. I don't know, like people are like, how are you playing softball right now? Like, well, in the South, they're going to be playing everywhere. And next Thursday starts the season.
Now, can I ask a question here? And you can answer this however you'd like. You're pretty good, aren't you, Brandon?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I think we've crossed paths before.
Direct question.
Hey,
direct answer.
I appreciate the insight. That's it's a discussion that's been going on for a few years now, and especially in the Big Ten. I wonder, and these other conferences that all of a sudden have an influx of money, and they have so many different sports if they decide what to do with officials in this whole discussion about making them full time. So I appreciate the insight.
And I will say this too: basketball tiers their officials. So if you're a tier 1 official, which Higgins is, you're making, $4,000 to $5,000 a game. Woo! Because you're on the top tier of officials. So that means everybody, kind of what you guys said before, everybody wants you because you're that good. You're that season. You've done Final Fours, national championships, all that stuff. You're on that level. So that's where he's taking a carry-on bag and jumping from place to place to place to place to place because he's going to get more games because he's on that level, and then they tier him accordingly based on your experience, your ability, how you call games in tight situations, stuff like that. Then obviously they're trying to progress people, move them up. So we're not always the same thing in softball, especially at the World Series. You're not seeing the same, 8 people work in the World Series every year. They're trying to get more people, but it's really hard to, because on that level, there's a national guy overseeing basketball, and whoever he picks for the Final Four reflects on him. And if they mess up on something, that national guy who assigns it all probably gets fired.
Wow. I can't imagine when you travel, the anxiety as you're waiting at baggage pickup to see your bag of gear come either out or not out.
My big giant gear bag. Yeah. I take a lot of direct flights on purpose, but there's sometimes when I have to change flights, like I'll fly to Atlanta and then change a plane and then, end up somewhere else. I'm worried about the changeover when I'm there because in the end, I have to have that bag, but I get smart and I travel with I set of base stuff in my backpack.
Wow.
So
Makes me nervous.
no matter what, I can at least do a couple games and hope my gear bag makes it in. If it doesn't, then I'm in the field that weekend, and then I'll figure out where it went. 'Cause I have
Gotcha.
a GPS tracker.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for the call. Have a great season.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's good insight there. We got
20 to 25 grand a week.
We are popular.
Those tier ones?
Iowa JD is one of the top softball umpires in this area as well.
All right. I got a depressing stat for you, by the way.
All right, that is our
Well,
last.
that's a lead-in.
That's a great transition there, Nick. Good job.
Sorry, I didn't want to forget.
The stat of the day. This is the last chance for you to win my booty, and we're gonna do it the same way. We're gonna give our streamers an opportunity as well. When you hear the cue to call, be the first person that emails, and Jimmy will check it out. Jay Chavez at nrgmedia.com.
104. The stat is 104, and the reason I bring this up, when it comes to punt returns, this was discussed yesterday with Ed Foley. In 2016, Nebraska was number one. They had 620 yards in the punt return game. In the last 2 years, Nebraska's combined for 104 punt return yards when actually attempted to return one, and that would be on 15 attempts. 15 attempts, 104 total yards in the punt return game in the last 2 years combined. And respectively, 2021, they were 127th. Last year, they were 103rd.
Huh.
Could only get better.
Fair Catch Oliver has moved on.
What's that? Oh,
Fair Catch Oliver has moved on.
Yes.
Love-hate relationship with that guy. I'm sure it wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
But I still have a hard time at a game in Madison 2 years ago. But that's, we're on to something new. Not the stat of the day, but I thought the biggest number that was discussed yesterday in special teams with Ed Foley, maybe we'll get into this with BC, 5. Baylor blocked 5 punts or 5 kicks, kicks in 2019. That could be an interesting part because I will not believe it until I see it about Nebraska deciding to return kicks north and south. I'm burned.
Yeah. No,
I'm burned.
That's understandable.
I'm burned. But there are some intriguing options on the roster. That's what one of the things we'll get into.
Fair catches inside the 5, though.
Sorry. Fair Catch Oliver has moved on. He's out of eligibility. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone. Hey, here's your opportunity. The Super Bowl is here. And guess who is in the Super Bowl? The Kansas City Chiefs, along with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, ticketsforless.com. Great company. Based out of the Kansas City area, and they have made a home right here in Omaha. So as the Chiefs are headed back to the big game, the big game in Arizona, if you'd like to follow Kansas City to Arizona for the game, Tickets for Less is your source for tickets at the best prices, as well as the best customer service. This is all you have to do. Head over to ticketsforless.com right now to shop for tickets, or give them a call here in Omaha, 402-398-1999, and you can talk to a member of their customer service team. They will take care of you if you want to go to the big game in Arizona. Nearly 20 years of experience at ticketsforless.com. They know how it works, especially this week for the Super Bowl, the big game in Arizona. They've done it before. They'll do it again. Check them out online, ticketsforless.com.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. The best way to catch all the action is on 1620 The Zone. And no line for the bathroom.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
It's time to find a career that's right for you. Metropolitan Community College can help you find a new path forward on your time. Whether you need a degree that puts you on a path to a new career or need to finish a degree you've already started, MCC makes it affordable and convenient with a flexible class schedule, online or on campus. It's your time to path forward. Let MCC show you the way. Register today. Classes start March 9th. Apply today at mccneb.edu/adults.
Milk, eggs, $42. Ma'am, you okay?
Need bucks? With Jackson Hewitt, don't wait weeks for the IRS to send your tax refund. Come in now for up to $3,500 with a no-interest, no-fee refund advance loan when you file your taxes. That's up to $3,500 today. Don't let high prices get you down. When every dollar matters, it matters who does your taxes. So get to Jackson Hewitt today. For eligible clients, loans by Republic Bank and Trust Company. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
Nerds! Here at NerdWallet, we often see people wrestle with financial decisions.
Mike is in the ring, up against his nemesis, indecision. Mike can't decide the best way to save his money, and indecision has him boxed in. But wait, Mike tagged in NerdWallet!
Whew, let's go. With NerdWallet's side-by-side comparisons, you can find a high-yield savings account with interest rates that earn more bank for your buck. So the next time you wrestle with a financial decision, you'll come out on top. NerdWallet, the smartest decision for all your financial decisions.
Save the date and bring your appetite. 4 days of Shrimp Fest at Shuck's Fish House starts Sunday, January 29th. 9 different flavors of shrimp to choose from for only $5 a dozen. 3 Omaha locations. Get the skinny on our shrimp at shucksfishhouse.com.
Omaha Maverick women's basketball heads to Minnesota for a weekday matchup with the St. Thomas Tommies. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. Thursday night. Hear all of the Omaha women's action against St. Thomas at 7 p.m. Thursday on 1180 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone Traffic.
From the time-saving traffic center, we have a couple of accidents to report, starting with one near 84th Street at Loveland Drive, so please be cautious if you are in that area. Then we also have an accident to report near 144th and Blondo, so please be cautious if you are in that area as well. Then on Dodge, be prepared for a bit of a slowdown from 80th to 67th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Fernando's.
Come on, when was the last time you had your Fernando's fix? It doesn't get any better than lunch, dinner, carry-out, even catering from Fernando's. Get your Fernando's fix. 114th and Dodge, 75th and Pacific, and FernandosOmaha.com.
Guys, let's face it, there is a time when you just need to get out of the house, to have your own place, to be with the guys, or just a quiet, relaxing place for yourself. Well, Hearth Cigars and Pipes Lounge hears you loud and clear. Settle in. Escape to Hearth Cigars and Pipes Lounge for an incredible selection, plus premium cocktails, a knowledgeable, friendly staff, state-of-the-art humidor, and incredible lounge. Hearth Cigars and Pipes Lounge, just off I-680 at 48th Street, next to Covey's.
Email us on the Equitable Bank inbox with whatever is on your mind. Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. You can get me, Gary, at 1620thezone.com. We want to hear from you on the Equitable Bank Zone Inbox.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
News Talk 1290 Coil is your new home for Omaha Maverick hockey all season long. Don't miss a single puck drop, power play, barn burner, or any of the action this season. Your home for Maverick hockey, home and away, is News Talk 1290 Coil.
From basketball to volleyball, baseball to softball, soccer, tennis, and so much more, the Creighton sports season is packed with action. The 1620 The Jays podcast, presented by Barry Law, covers it all. Each week, we visit with Blue Jay athletes and coaches to hear their stories and document their climb through the Big East Conference. The 1620 The Jays podcast drops each Friday morning and is found at 1620thezone.com and all major podcast platforms. Just search 1620 The Jays. Covering all things Creighton Blue Jays, it's the 1620 The Jays podcast, presented by Barry Law from 1620 The Zone.
Tickets for Less. Best seats, best prices, no per-ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, last hour on a Tuesday, the last day of January. Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7, joins us. Good morning, BC. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. We should all have a daily dose of Ed Foley in our life. So that would make us as cheery as he is every day. That was one of my
Yeah.
takeaways from yesterday.
Yeah, my favorite Ed Foley part of yesterday was when he was saying how his son, they're in the New York area for a while, and his son wanted to go to Mets games. And Ed Foley put the kibosh on that because Ed Foley's a big Phillies fan. Of course, Mets are a rival. Said, you can go to Yankees games, not Mets games, my boy. And I don't know. I love that sort of parenting. Like, like that's how I would want to be with like the Vikings with my kid. Like, you're not going to Lambeau, son,
Mm-hmm.
And then for Packers fans listening, you could do the same, of course, with the Vikings. But I did like that he has standards set in place about what fandom represents in that family.
Hey, let's stick with him and his specialty, because he also, outside of telling the stories of his introduction to Nebraska, he talked about what he's going to be in charge of, and that is special teams. And he had a great, it kind of gives you some insight on how he looks at his group and how he described why they were attracted to Tristan Alvano. Not just hey, he made big kicks, but the kind of kicks that he made, all of that kind of stuff. But we all kind of drifted to an area which is, something on Saturdays we bang our head against the wall, and that's returning kicks, whether it be kickoffs or punt returns. And he went through what he wanted to happen. No penalties, which I thought was important because, last year when Nebraska, anytime they got a special teams penalty, they were behind the sticks already, and they hadn't even snapped the ball on first down, and we saw what that did to the offense. He talked about no penalties, and he talked about going north-south. I'm kind of in the group, and this is probably because I've been burned, is believe it. I will believe it when I see it. What was your thoughts on how he wants to handle punt returns and kickoff returns?
Yeah, I believe it when I see it too, but I like that he was stressing that part about, the north-south and avoiding the stuff that moves you back. I mean, to me in football, 8 to 10 of the biggest yards are when a guy tries to make a play returning a kickoff when he could just wave his hand and you could get it at the 25.
Yep.
And you end up getting hit down at the 16-yard line. Think about that situation then. You get a first down if you start at the 16 and maybe you're out to like the 28 or 29. You're basically where you would have been to begin with if you had just waved your hand, and the drive still feels like it's just getting going. You take that ball out at the 25 like they'll give it to you, and you get a first down and you feel like, all right, we're heading for point.
Mm-hmm.
You're at the 40-yard line after a first down. So, I mean, to me, it's like 8 to 10 of the biggest yards, not to mention the fact that when you return those kicks, officials love to throw flags on those plays, and there's a lot of fouls committed on those type of plays. And so it ends up being those possessions that can absolutely kill your team, where you get the flag and you're on the 6-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought he did a nice job within what he was saying yesterday of stressing that part basically being clean. That's the key. You got to be a clean operating unit that's moving it north. And I just think that's been one of the biggest problems with kickoffs. It's not the fact that Nebraska hasn't returned one 98 yards to me. It's the fact that too many times the ball's inside the 17-yard line or inside the 10-yard line after a kickoff because of poor decisions. And that's probably my biggest beef there. Punt returns, I agree with you. It's like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. And also, punt returns are tough to pop anymore. Like, I say this all the time. We were spoiled by that Pearson L year when he had the just monster season and set records returning punts. If you go look at teams across the country and how much yardage they actually get off of punt returns during a season, there's only like 25 to 30 that often make a lot of hay, and most of the teams around the country don't. So I do think there's something to be said for, in that part of the game, just clean up the stuff where you're at least catching the ball and you're getting it forward. And then, maybe you are that aggressive unit where, as Nebraska did last year, where you start to be innovative and you block some punts and stuff like that. And you have to say last season we saw more of that from Nebraska.
Yep.
That was a positive. They were blocking some kicks. They were also having some punts blocked, but that's something that they can build off of.
Yeah, I know he had mentioned, or at least was asked the question about starters involved in special teams too. It wasn't really surprised at the response, but it was probably very appropriate time-wise to remind people, hey, we had a guy named Hassan Reddick who also contributed on special teams too. So, I mean, did any part of that answer and just sort of his view on starters contributing surprise you at all? Has that just become commonplace?
No, I think it's become pretty common, and I would expect they'd mix some in there. But, that's also a phase of the game where you can find guys who are walk-ons, who have niches, who are very good at those niches. And that's what they do for your football team. And in some cases, you hopefully find guys who are like first-year scholarship guys. Maybe they're just out of high school in some cases, and they're not quite ready to be every-down players, but they have the traits to be very good at special teams and learn that part of the job and be part of the squad. And I do think that's useful to get those guys who are new to the program involved in special teams when you can, because you guys know how hard it can be to just sit out over there all season if you don't feel like you have a role or you're not contributing. So that's the part we don't often bring into the conversation, but I think that does matter to get those young scholarship guys work there if they're up for it, because it keeps them engaged, and that they've got a job, and that gives them satisfaction after a Saturday where they had a good day or the team won and they felt like they did something, as opposed to they just stood over on the sideline all game. So I wasn't surprised that they would want to mix some guys in there. You got to be smart with it, but it feels like that's become, something. I think if you even look at Georgia's national title teams, you'll see that they've had some guys that are going to, playing in the NFL that were involved heavily in special teams. So it's got to be something you put a lot into.
This is, and I've said this numerous times as we've gotten to know guys that they have no connection to the program. So they're new and they're experiencing the passion around here and what they have at their fingertips, representing Nebraska football. And so yesterday to hear Ed Foley and Terrence Knighton, who I think another common theme among this staff, genuine, but also they have a passion for the sport of football. They like to talk football. And they both talked about, and they referenced this, and even the other assistant coaches that have spoken, and heck, Matt Rule. And I don't know if this is just you're new at a place and you understand that Nebraska's, been a middling program for a while, and it's your duty to get Nebraska to be competitive every Saturday. But there were phrases yesterday used like, we want to get Nebraska back where it deserves to be. There's a certain place that Nebraska should be. You've been around this long enough. We've gone through numerous coaching staffs, and I know these guys haven't coached a game on the field, and we know what it's like when you lose one game and then you lose another, what the reaction is. But how heavy is it, do you think, that burden or what hangs over the program to restore just Nebraska football to consistent football week by week?
I mean, it's probably heavy, but I also think it can be something that drives you. I mean, I have to think if you go throughout the state and you stop in all these small towns and you just see how much it means to, 95 to 100% of the population somewhere in there, and just like how eager they are to see even an assistant coach, that's popping through. It's not like that everywhere. These guys are in, this is a football hotbed. It has remained so, sort of against what would be common sense for how much the program has struggled in recent years, where that passion hasn't went away. Now, people are a little more, and rightly so, skeptical of what could happen, or they're maybe a little more pessimistic about how things are going to go because they've just seen too many things go wrong, so they need it to be proven to them. But they're always like just wanting to believe and wanting something that they can say, okay, these guys have a plan in place. I can see that they're driven. I can see that they've done this at other stops together. I'm not going to put all my hopes into this yet, but I'm going to have some belief that maybe they can get it done. And I think when you hear them talk, I do think fans are kind of getting a little amped up about it. And I think if you go back to when Matt Rule was hired, I don't think it was one of those hires where everybody in the state was just like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. Like it wasn't Frost, but with Rule, it wasn't that way. But I do feel like if you took like a poll of where people were then, and now as they've watched this staff like work their way through the community and be involved and just the pride they have now in wearing the N on their shirts and everything that's been said and done, I think they've moved the needle. But you're right, it's going to come down to what can you do over the course of the games in the fall. But for the first 2 months, they've succeeded really with the fan base. I think in showing they are very invested and happy to be here, and they know what the tradition of this program is, but also they're forward thinkers. And I think that's important too. You can't just be looking in the past. You can honor it, but you gotta have a vision. And I feel like there's something, we're seeing signs of that with what Rule's doing.
Yeah, it's a good answer because I think that there was always, and going back to what you said about the overall feel about Matt Rule's hire, and then we were kind of, I think a lot of people were maybe turned on after they heard Matt Rule speak and address it with a lot of genuine thought. And we've heard now a lot of the assistant coaches, as you talked about, there seems to be sort of that commonality as we've talked about, maybe authentic, genuine. When you think about not just here in the state of Nebraska, Brian, but I mean, what you cover on a daily basis too, with recruiting outside of, say, the 500-mile radius, do you think that resonates as much as it's resonating here locally?
I mean, I think outside of the state, obviously, there's going to have to be some evidence over a few years that Nebraska is back before people just nod their head to that for sure. But the thing that is advantageous for the staff is they're very well linked in I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 different spots around the country where those relationships are I think going to get them off the ground. Like in Texas, those folks aren't thinking so much about, oh, Nebraska has stunk recently. They're thinking about, oh, I know Matt Rule from when he was at Baylor and how involved that staff was down in the state and how all the coaches knew him. And that's what matters right now. And then the thought like, well, he did a nice turnaround here. He could do it there. And I think so that like gets them off the floor at least, like in places like that. And that same thing in like New Jersey or like the Philadelphia area. They have those connections where they've built something at Temple and people saw it with their own eyes. And so not every kid that's 16, 17 years old is going to be thinking like Nebraska is like the top tier program right now, but they might know through their coaches or whatever about what Rule and the staff has done in that area with other programs and the fact that he's coached in the NFL. And I think that's a pretty good sales opportunity while you're building it for them to use.
Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7 joining us. Another thing that Terrence Knighton said yesterday, and I think we're getting a sense that as busy as these guys have been on the recruiting trail and trying to get moved to Lincoln and settled in, they do have a sense like they have the bullet points of what has ailed Nebraska. And Terrence Knighton brought up yesterday the close games where Nebraska's had losses in close games. And I think we can all rattle off the one-possession games, what the record is. And, you go back, 3 of the last 4 games last year was the one-possession loss to Minnesota, the one-possession loss to Wisconsin, and then you won, the last time you were on the field, you won a one-possession game against Iowa. What was your reaction when he went into, quote, losing a lot of close games? For me, I feel like that's culture. That's culture in the locker room amongst the players. That's a direct image of the leadership. Because in the fourth quarter, when the game is tight, you want the players to say, hey, we're not losing today. For someone that has never coached here, has not been here, maybe just 2 months, what was your reaction when he went there yesterday?
No, I think that's probably true. I mean, you do have to flip the mindset, and it's hard to put to words, but there has to be that thought with 10 minutes left on the sideline, like something good's going to happen now. And unfortunately, during the Frost era, and I'm only bringing this up because I think it pertains to the question, by like year 3 or so, enough data had piled up that something bad usually happened in those moments that your mind couldn't help but go there, right? Like you could have been had the strongest will as like a high school prospect coming to Nebraska 4 or 5 years ago, but you'd been through 2 or 3 years where you saw just like at the worst time, the worst thing always happened. And it would be a different person every week. And so it's a strange thing in sports, but it's that sort of like cloud that just hangs over some franchises or some areas where it's like, oh man, what's going to go wrong? Or the other team makes a play and you just sort of expect that can break you. I think the biggest thing that Nebraska football will have to get over, I have sensed in recent years, it's not always in the fourth quarter. There's like a play or something that goes wrong, and it could be with like 7 minutes in the second quarter, where it's like a swing, one of those just swinging plays that you put a circle around in your notebook, and there's that feeling like that's going to matter. Like everybody's seen it matter, and it's going to be a problem, and that I think that sets into the minds of people as they're watching the game, and I can't help but think that even sets into the minds of guys who have been around it, playing it for Nebraska. So somehow, some way, with fresh coaches and fresh ideas, and just like, okay, we're hitting reset, we're blowing the cartridge on the NFC cartridge here, and we're going to start over this game, and we'll see what happens. That maybe it can be as simple as that, where it's like, okay, what happened in the past is in the past, and now you guys have won football games in your life before and been in those moments and done it at other places. Let's do it here, and let's do it together. So it's just about building that belief. And then, of course, you got to have those moments like in early September where you just make that play and you win a game on September 9th or something, and you've done it, and you say, okay, on September 23rd, when we're in that type of game, we've been here. Let's do it again.
This is something that I know will probably be discussed a little bit tomorrow with Matt Rule, but also as we get into the spring, I feel like every year, I mean, there's just a little bit of a void that we're excited to see some type of football back at some competitive level for this group. So forgive me if I've asked you this every year that we've got to this time of the year, but do you think this spring is as exciting as far as what competition will take place as early as day one of spring that we've seen in a long time?
Yeah, because I think there's just so much unknown about who's where and who's going to be the top dogs. If you go really across the board, I mean, you could start at quarterback, but you could work out, the wide receiver, and you could name off 2 or 3, like your Marcus Washingtons or maybe like Alante Brown, and like Billy Kemp's showing up, and you'd expect that he's going to have a say in it. So, I mean, we could spend like the next 5 minutes, like going through wide receivers, and, it'd be pretty interesting conversation about like, okay, who's going to be your top 5 or 6 there. And I think you can, tight end is its own fascinating storyline now with Art Gilbert, and you got to donate. I just think across the roster, you could pick any position group and you could say, these are pretty big question marks, but these are also reasons why I'm kind of intrigued and excited about what could happen. And there's sort of a balance there that you do as you look through it that is, I think, makes this spring a good one. Now, some people will say, wake me up when it's, late August, and that's fine. But I do think because it's Rule's first year, there's going to be more attention on that. And I got the hint, I don't know if it'll happen or not, but you got the hint from Trev Alberts that spring game, and they might have the bodies to do it, might be more of a real game, that type of old school red-white game we used to see around here. And if that's the case, I think that would add a little fire to folks too, just to even though it's just a scrimmage, just to see okay, they're colliding here.
Yep.
I think there would be some worthwhile to that, and it might send a little message to the fans too. So I think that's something to really consider.
Great stuff. Appreciate the conversation, BC. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
That's Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. So let me give you a scenario. I always believe in this quote, and it's been used by a lot of people, where you say, I hate to lose more than I love to win. And if you can get your program or your business in a competitive environment, and that's kind of the mindset, I hate to lose more than I love to win, then you're cooking with some peanut oil. And you've got a bunch of new faces now in this program, and you've got a bunch of new coaches that haven't gone through the, here we go again mindset. And they're creating a competitive day-to-day thing where I hate to lose more than I win. What would tell you more about the infancy of culture being set in a Matt Rule program if on August 31st in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with 50,000 people at Huntington Bank Stadium, 25,000 of them are going to be wearing red.
Yep.
3 minutes to go in the game. There's a punt, touchback, comes out to the 20. What would tell you more about the start of the culture in close games that you're on offense, down 21-20 and score, or on defense and you're up 21-20 and you don't allow them to score?
Offense.
Same result. You
Offense.
find a way. You find a way to win a football game.
Give me the drive. Give me the drive. How many? What was always the knock on Adrian? Never had that key drive at the end. You could use the Illinois game from 2019, where he and Wandale kind of took over the second half, but where you have that drive where every fan, hopefully not that sideline, but every fan's going to be like, we know how this ends. And yet you, right out of the gate of the Mad Rule era, you go right down and finish in the end zone. To me, that would be more indicative. Because you've seen you've seen the defense, especially the COVID year. I remember when Nebraska damn near blew a huge lead against Penn State, but they had to hold them off a couple separate times. And then we saw a little bit of that too in years to follow with the Chinano defense until last year. Yeah, I would say.
See, I'm going to go defense. I'm going to go defense.
Okay.
And I'm going to use Wisconsin as an example. I think it would say more if when you come out on the field and you have 3 minutes to go and you're protecting a 21-20 lead to begin the season and you have 11 guys run on the field and go, not today, fellas. Not today. We're going to make a stop. We're going to stop Minnesota and we're going to keep them out of the end zone. We're going to keep them out of field goal range. Remember, my scenario here, hypothetical, is 21-20. We're going to keep them out of field goal range, keep them out of the end zone, and we're actually going to get the ball back so that we can have a victory formation. To me, that would both would be great results for Nebraska, but to me, I would be on the defensive side that guys came on the field and said, not today, especially when now the whole stadium is like, oh, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
3 minutes to go. You got all your timeouts, PJ Fleck. You're going to drive right down the field. And Nebraska defensively says, not today.
Kind of like what you saw Sunday.
Yeah, not today. Not going to happen today.
Get the big sack.
Thanks for playing. We are going to win this football game.
See, and I'm still fixated on the O-line, the things that would have to happen for the offense to have a successful drive in those moments that have just sort of evaded this program for a very long time. And I would be, as we say, fully husked. If the offense at the please don't make it a field goal, though. Just finish in the end zone, because then that's another layer of anxiety right there.
Andy Candy, you're going to join us here in a little bit. Have your chance to win the last booty. The last booty. Also, we don't do poll questions, but who is saltier towards guys that are now at Nebraska? South Carolina fans or Carolina Panther fans? The Carolina Panther fans hate Matt Rule.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay. Didn't work out in Carolina.
That's fine. You
got Frank Reich, even though Steve Wilkes. Can you have both? You think Frank Reich's a good hire, but man, Steve Wilkes might have got a job there.
Yeah.
So Carolina Panther fans, they don't let them get in your mentions about Matt Rule because they hate him. South Carolina fans, I think, are also very salty towards Marcus Satterfield.
Mm-hmm.
I use the example. I don't know if Matt Rule did his offensive coordinator any good, so he tweeted out a picture of the food they were eating at Satterfield's house. I always say don't read the replies. If you want to be humored today, read the replies and check out a lot of the avatars that have the old Gamecock logo in it. It is pretty wild. I knew that they were, a little bit, I'm not so certain on this guy before they had that explosion at the end of the points. And there's some salty people in Columbia and Charlotte.
It's fine.
I'll just say, probably Nebraska football will not be advertising for tickets or looking for the 1890 initiative to roll into the Charlotte, Columbia area.
The greater Carolina area.
AK is going to join us here in a little bit on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
Rhubarb pie is garbage.
You know what I don't like?
Oh, whoa. I don't like rhubarb.
If you make it right.
People used rhubarb in the Depression because that's all they could afford.
It was a filler.
If it was good, you wouldn't have to mix it with strawberries. We can afford strawberries now.
You know that cocoa doesn't taste sweet. You have to add things to the cocoa to make it chocolate. You add things to the rhubarb to make it taste better.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Another frigid start Tuesday with wind chill values dipping below zero early on. Morning clouds will give way to plenty of afternoon sunshine, though staying cold with highs in the mid to upper 20s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley, brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine on 1620 The Zone.
After a 4-game road trip, the Mavericks basketball team is back home at Baxter Arena. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Sharp. Join me coming up on Thursday night as the Mavericks take on St. Thomas. It's the Mavs and the Tommies from Baxter Arena on News Talk 1290. Quill, pregame 6:30, tip-off 7 o'clock.
Making plans to watch the big game? Nick Handley here for my friends at DJ's Dugout. Watch the big game at DJ's Dugout. Enjoy big game specials all day, Sunday, February 12th. Get a dozen of DJ's famous wings for just $10. And $5 32-ounce domestic beers and $7 32-ounce specialty and craft beer drafts. Cheer for Kansas City or Philadelphia and gather with friends for the big game at DJ's Dugout. Dig in at the dugout.
Shrimp Fest at Shuck's Fish House starts Sunday, January 29th. New features include harissa, mango habanero, and green curry plus 6 other flavors. All for $5 a dozen at all 3 Shuck's locations. Get the whole scoop on our shrimp at shucksfishhouse.com.
Do you like to shoot fireworks? Would you like to get paid to shoot fireworks? J&M Displays wants you. Help shoot an Omaha Storm Chasers game, Memorial Park display, or any of the major shows in Western Iowa and all of Nebraska. If you like to travel, J&M covers Nebraska, Kansas, and most of Missouri. They offer free training and great daily pay rates, which makes it a perfect part-time job. Visit jnmdisplays.com and click the Join Our Team tab to find out more. J&M Fireworks.
Hey, listener. Welcome to Limu's Karaoke Lounge, where Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need, and the music never stops. Hit it.
There's an emu with a full-time job. His partner's Doug, but Limu's the heartthrob. Grubs and worms, that's what Limu eats. Gotta fuel up to save you money and hit the streets.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Now back to Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, so I mentioned earlier, Cindy Williams passed away at the age of 75. You guys have seen American Graffiti?
Yeah, I have not.
Great
No.
movie.
No, I never saw it.
It was Ron Howard's girlfriend in American Graffiti.
Okay.
And there were a lot of people, they love Laverne and Shirley. I remember my parents watched Laverne and Shirley. How many shows that you watched as a kid and then maybe went back and watched as an adult
And
watched
liked it?
differently, and you're like, wow, that's a good show? Because so during the COVID break, Laverne and Shirley was on. And I think I probably saw every episode when I was a kid because it was on in our house when it was on, Tuesday nights or something like that. I don't remember. But I was really young. I went back and watched it. And I thought, you know what? That's a pretty good show. The opposite, like watching the Brady Bunch as an adult.
Yeah.
The Brady Bunch is a terrible show.
Yeah.
But as a kid, you're like, wow, this is awesome.
Oh, Saved by the Bell for me.
Do you know another show I did?
Saved by the Bell is worse?
It was worse.
Okay.
Yeah. As I got older, I'm like, what the hell?
So another show that I was watching, post-college was The OC. Okay, so I will admit I was an OC fan.
Oh, that's big of you.
I mean, I still don't truly get why you would kill the main character that soon, but they did. So I like The OC. I saw like 2 episodes of The OC a couple of years ago. What was I thinking? Why did I waste like 3 years watching that show?
Yeah.
'Cause that show is brutal. But Laverne and Shirley, to me, from watching it as a kid to an adult, aged well. But like Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island, not so much.
For me, Cheers, because I was seeing it. I just didn't get a lot of the humor when I was young, and then as I got older, rewatched it. Could do that. I think it was on Netflix.
Yeah, that's what we did. It's brilliantly written, and now you're like, oh,
I love it. Well, Cheers is great. I just never appreciated it. And the other one, because I thought it was boring as hell. As soon as I'd hear it come on, and right either after or before we're gonna have dinner, was MASH when I was little.
Mel just tweeted. He said Scooby-Doo and MASH. MASH to a lot of people, like if you watched it, because it seemed like everybody watched it when we were kids.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
what was it, Monday nights? Yeah. And you might have younger, you might look at MASH and go, I don't get it.
Yeah.
If you watch MASH later, first of all, the humor in there probably doesn't go over well today.
No.
But it was a really well-written show. It also makes you appreciate the day and age of 30-minute comedies on television where you can't waste any time. You've got to get right into the storyline. MASH is another one that as an adult, I have a greater appreciation for.
That one for me. And then the only show that I'm equal, consistent on both levels when I was young, when I was older. For some reason, when I was young, we discussed Night Court. Night Court, it was one of those shows that my dad watched that I got into even when I was younger. But then as I got older, I was out of the house. If Night Court was on, I'd watch it, and I still had the same type of appreciation for it. That one always just stood the test of time for me.
We just talked about going back and watching the original now that they did a remake, because right away I said, I remember the theme song was iconic, just like a lot of the shows back then. And I said the other night, it's probably a show that we'd love as grown-ups because now you get what the humor was about.
Yeah, and that was Cheers for me.
Like
And
even
MASH.
the Golden Girls, when all the grown-ups would be laughing, it's like, I don't get it. Then you watch and you're like, dude, those old ladies were raunchy.
Well, you know what I need to try though, because I loved it. I was in my teens when I really got into it, and I wonder if I'd still have the same appreciation. Is The Wonder Years. That's another show that I really liked then. I wonder now that I'm older, would I be like, or would I be like, no, it's just as good? Because it was pretty good. I like The Wonder Years.
Ed says Bugs Bunny. As a child, I was amused by the obvious slapstick cartoons could afford their plots. As an adult, I was surprised by the double entendres pervasive in the dialogue.
Oh, I guess I never picked up on that.
By the way, Wonder Years premiered 35 years ago tonight after Super Bowl 22, in which
Wow.
Washington dropped that 35-point second quarter on the Broncos.
On the Broncos, I remember that. Doug Williams.
And you were talking about this year, what's after the Super Bowl, because they always talk about, what's the post-Super Bowl programming.
Wow, Wonder Years was. Okay, that's a good one.
January 31st, 1988.
Yeah. This year, it's a celebrity cooking show.
Yeah.
That's why I say
It-
that.
it
And that's what I
needs
thought
to-
of when you
It
said
needs
that.
to be the farmer show.
Exactly.
The farmer's dating show.
Anybody watch Fire Country? Because
No.
CBS promoted that heavily. That was going to.
No, I didn't.
I didn't to spite them.
Yeah.
No. Tony Romo, quit telling me what to watch.
Hey, you guys gotta watch Fire Country!
Clyde Drexler was not better than Michael Jordan.
All right.
Come on!
Andy Kendi coming next.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. Big names, big games. We've got them all. 1620 The Zone. It's time to win Gary's Booty. Be caller 4 right now at 402-951-1620. That's caller 4 at 402-951-1620. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620. The Zone.
Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is your home for the big game. Whether it's the pro football playoffs or a rivalry on the hardwood, you'll find all the action on Oscar's upgraded audio-video system. With 40 TVs and massive dual projectors, the game has never looked better. Pair that with their award-winning char-buffed wings and $7.99 Monday through Friday lunch specials. Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill has everything you need. 173rd and West Center Road, and for takeout at 162nd in Maple.
At the American Lung Association, we're fighting for a day when we can all breathe easier. We're fighting for clear skies over every city and healthy lungs throughout the country. We're fighting to free millions of Americans from the addictive grip of tobacco and the devastating effects of lung disease. The American Lung Association isn't just fighting for air, we're fighting for all the things that make it worth breathing, and we can use your help. See what you can do at fightingforair.org.
The Connor Happer Show.
By the way, guys, corn dogs, not a thing. I love corn dogs. You dip them in mustard. You eat one at the fair. Corn dogs are a delicious food. But I'm talking about corn, DAWGS, the intersection of Nebraska and Georgia football players. We're not calling those guys corn dogs. We're not doing it. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
The Connor Happer Show. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on 1620. The Zone.
Do you have an invention idea but don't know what to do next? Call InventHelp today. We have representatives nationwide who will explain the InventHelp process step by step. Over 10,000 patents have been secured through InventHelp's patent referral services. The InventHelp data bank includes thousands of companies who have agreed to review new ideas. We've been helping inventors since 1984. Let's help you next. Get started today.
Call 1-800-217-4380. That's 1-800-217-4380. Again, 1-800-217-4380.
It's the final days to save big store-wide at the Truckload event at Lowe's. Right now, get deals on select major appliances and take home what you buy same day. And save an additional 10% on all in-store clearance appliances. Plus, get savings on even more items across the store, like up to 40% off select bathroom products. Hurry and head to your local Lowe's store or visit Lowes.com to shop the Truckload event today. Exclusions apply. While supplies last, selection varies by location. See Lowes.com for details. Valid 1/26 through 2/8.
Listen to the Woodhouse Auto Family Blue Jay shoot-around and overtime shows. The Creighton men's basketball pregame and postgame shows on 1620 The Zone. The Woodhouse Auto Family Blue Jay shoot-around and overtime shows are also presented by Burton AC Heating, Plumbing, and More, by Barry Law, by Union Bank and Trust, and by DJ's Dugout. Before and after each Creighton game, exclusively on your home for the Creighton Blue Jays. 1620 The Zone, 1620 The Zone mobile app, and 1620thezone.com.
Give your business a whole host of options with Host Coffee. The most impressive selection of office coffee, water options, healthy food options, and vending technologies. Host Coffee, serving you since 72. Be a part of the Host Coffee team today. If you'd like to work for a trusted and loyal family-owned company that understands the needs of working families, Host Coffee has your opportunity. Apply at hostcoffee.net.
Don't miss this week's Zone Deal.
This week's half-off deal is $50 worth of vouchers to Le Voltaire French Restaurant for only $25. Le Voltaire Pepperwood Village is a locally owned, unpretentious French restaurant serving down-home cooking with an extensive wine list and great handcrafted cocktails for decades. Whether dining with friends, clients, or that special someone, Le Voltaire will make you feel right at home.
Zone Deals go fast. 9 a.m. Friday, 1620thezone.com. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Okay, all the booty is gone. We have two winners today. Thanks to our streamers. Well, I fought for you, get you involved, and everybody else that's participated in the entire month of January. And a big thanks to Andy Kendi, KTV, that is joining us. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Awesome. We had an early wake-up call today.
It's Dance Team Nationals Week. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have been following this very closely, but
Is this in
there's
Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Orlando.
Okay.
So there's like 20 teams locally, 20 schools going down to compete for a natty. Big deal.
Yeah.
Of course, my daughter's on one of those teams, and let's just say I was at Epley Airfield at 4:15. There's no traffic in the morning at 4.
So now, would you like to handicap the chances for West Side?
Well, I will go a step further. Millard North is a perennial power.
Yes, they are. They are.
I mean, they have national championship after national championship. But look out for Elkhorn South District boys. They won the competition at UNO, and this is way more dance talk than I think you've ever were expected from me. But I think those are the two teams to beat. I think Westside has a good chance to compete. I don't know if they'll be there on Sunday for the national finals because it's like first day is the first level and the Saturday semifinals, Sundays are the finals. So we're headed out on Thursday. So we're going to gain about 60, 70 degrees. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It is warm in Florida.
So at the
Record heat.
odds, so Millard North, you stay away because you're not getting a lot of value there. Are you saying Elkhorn South, maybe West Side could be a good value pick there?
Right.
Okay,
I think
all right.
Elkhorn South is your value pick. Yeah.
All right.
If you want a pick that you might set a flyer on, sure. Yeah, West.
Okay.
Right. Absolutely.
I love that you're in this world. You've been in the swimming world, you've been in the dance world, the show choir world, all of that, and also now you're in our world. Welcome to the West Side family, of course.
Yeah. I know. It's 20 years ago, Andy. If he only knew what was ahead of him, I don't know what he would have thought.
Hey,
Well, he wouldn't have thought that this was going to happen this way. I sure know that.
So you and your wife are normal parents. What's the general what's the vibe of parents you're going to run into at these competitions?
Some parents who are in it to win it. That way. There is no question. There may be some parents living on the street. There may be, hypothetically speaking, of course. I don't know any particular examples. But yeah, for the most part, the dance parents take all this stuff with a grain of salt. They want the kids to succeed, and I will tell you, it is kind of neat to see your kids perform at a high level, and it's just like any sport. And these kids probably put in as much, if not more, work because they're not just dancing for their high schools. They're also after school. There's separate dance lessons with different dance studios because they can do that type of thing and not get suspended by the NSAA for a contest here or there. We're doing outside supplemental activities. So, it is definitely an investment in your children, and hopefully they learn something about life along the way.
Okay, so my last question on this too. Do parents, you mentioned some that take a little bit maybe more serious or personal, trying to live out a dream. Any of them gear up to the extent of maybe even donning the uniform that will be worn by the dance team?
I don't know about the uniform.
Okay.
Let's just say there's matching bling.
Okay.
And,
all right.
I know as Westside parents, we got special pom-pom things to shake as they go this weekend. But yeah, this is pretty involved. It's a pretty good deal. But yes, there are some parents who, just like anything, there's some other parents who are not that involved, but there are some parents who are very involved.
Let me ask you, because you mentioned it, what happened with the two Burke High School basketball players, Reed Emsick and Tanner Nelson, two kids who they wanted to volunteer and help out the Special Olympics, but they volunteered and they participated in a game, and so they were suspended. And it's been a story, and I'm kind of surprised that it has not become a national story. It's kind of stayed local. You guys at Channel 7 have covered it. We talked about it briefly. We know a lot of the different parties involved, whether they be at Burke or the great people that are part of the Special Olympics or even at the NSAA. How do you fix a situation like this?
Well, this is a tough one because the optics are terrible. Anyone with a half a brain in terms of anyone with common sense knows that these kids should be allowed to do this, right? But in the NSAA's point of view, rules are rules, and you have to stay by the rules, because if you cut a corner on one rule, that opens the door about cutting a corner on another rule. So Jay Beller and the NSAA, those fine people over there, are in a tough spot, because if they are lenient on one rule, that opens the door and sets precedent. So unfortunately, they can't do anything about this rule until the member schools take action. But I believe in this particular case, action will be taken and this rule will be changed, because this is one of those you shake your head and it is ridiculous. And it's funny, you rarely get agreement on social media, but this one universally is what is going on. How come these kids can't do something good and help others? Which, tip of your cap to those kids at Berg for trying to give back a little bit and to participate with their fellow students, and to get penalized like that is just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I've gone back and forth, and it's the one thing of the letter of the law, the rule, and the spirit of the rule, and we're teaching our kids to do the right thing and to help others. And these two young men, and there are plenty of others that went and helped. I don't know if they knew the rule. I know there's a lot of rules that you don't know, but it also comes back, and I agree with you, AK. I think this will be rectified so that there can be a waiver process, or certain things like this. You can say, this is okay. You can't go and play in your church league or AAU, but this is fine. But I think it also comes back, and we both know Jay, and we've known other people that have been in the role of the director of the NSAA. Isn't it just kind of power and title only? Because it's all about the membership schools, that you don't have a position to go, hey, I understand what they were doing. It's too harsh to penalize them. Isn't that also part of this discussion?
No question, 100%. And Jay Beller, the executive director of the NSAA, is basically the caretaker of his membership schools. And so he's not a dictator. He can't say, hey, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. He's at the mercy, basically, of his membership schools, and can't really act until his member schools want to act accordingly. So, it is a membership school driven organization, and those collectively, they have to make decisions in the best interest of the schools. And I think this is just one of those fluky rules that unfortunately had to be enforced, but will be changed, because I can't imagine this continuing. And if anything, now people know about this rule, because I do believe, and I don't know the answer to this, but I got to believe that they didn't know about the rule, right? Because if they did, maybe they just help out and don't play, right?
Or
apply for
a
a
waiver.
waiver.
I was telling Gary, I wonder if the coaches even knew. I mean, even if the players went to the coaches and said something, I don't even know if the coaches knew that was wrong.
Such a fluky rule. Like, you wouldn't even think, well, why would there be a rule? Why would the NSAA say, no, you can't help out this Special Olympics kids? It just doesn't make any sense. Of course not. That, the spirit of the rule isn't geared for this. It's geared to have, Johnny not play on his separate side, hustle AAU tournament or church league and dominate that way. That's what it's designed to do. It's not it's not designed to not be serviceable in helping out your fellow student like that. It's just one of those fluky deals that really, and I'm with you, Gary. I'm surprised it hasn't caught national interest at this point, because I think in a story like this is one of those.
Oh yeah, we'd get teed. The state of Nebraska would get teed up on a story like this if it goes national.
And probably good that it didn't get national news, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Creighton right now, if you were to look at the Big East and the Tier 1 teams, Creighton, are we starting to talk about regular season championship capabilities again?
I think so. And, after splitting with Xavier, that game Saturday was so big and so important for so many reasons. And you still got Marquette at home coming up. I would think that people from the outside looking in think that Creighton is probably one of, if not the danger team in that league to win it. Providence is right there as well, but you also get Providence one more time, but that's out at their place. So I think the way, it's not just that they're getting results, but it's the way that they're getting results. And I think Saturday went a long way. I think Creighton is now put themselves in position. I mean, how many times did you walk around after the game Saturday and somebody come up to you and say, That's the team we were expecting all year,
Yeah,
right?
right.
It's like, oh, they look great. And I'll tell you, it's exciting to see them perform at that level because you know what they're capable of. And if they, stay healthy, they can make a run. No question.
Yeah. Well, you said it, by the way. I'm glad I heard you knock on wood because this is the time of the year that Creighton has that weird season-changing injury. It's a weird thing. Let's finish on this. What if Ed Foley finishes his career as a special teams coach in Nebraska and then retires and wants to live in Nebraska? What do you think he would do for a living?
I think he's a natural to be a travel Nebraska guy. Go around and sample the local eateries. I do appreciate there's finally a coach on Nebraska's football staff that's older than me. He barely gets me, but he's older than me, and he's wise. And I'll tell you, he was fantastic to listen to talk to yesterday. What a terrific personality and a perfect fit to lead special teams. And he basically said it. He said because his guys were all in the fold, it allowed him to go out and be the quote unquote local guy to go shake hands and go and do some outreach locally because his guys they already know who the kicker is going to be in terms of the class and recruiting. So he's got a little more time. So they said, "Yep, you're going to go out there," and I can't. You couldn't have picked a better guy to go out there and represent Nebraska.
Yeah, he's going to be. I don't know. Like special teams guys have been like quirky when Nebraska's had a special teams guy. Even though 450 was 450, he was still kind of interesting to talk to. Like Bill Bush's was great to talk to, and Ed Foley is going to be the same way. I thought it was.
It takes a different personality to lead special teams, I think.
It does, and you sometimes have to be one of the better coaches on the staff because you have to borrow players from both sides of the ball.
No doubt. And he did say that he would be allowed to borrow starters if need be. But I got the sense that they're going to be more role player guys that and that takes a certain mindset to play special teams. You got to know what kind of personality you want to have on those special teams. It's, obviously they've had their issues over the years, Nebraska does, but every year I'm like, okay, try not to. I know people are thinking this. Try not to buy in the hype. It's easy though. It's really hard not to like where this thing's going. Right? It is. This thing is going in the right direction, in my opinion. Every time I get done talking to a couple of the assistant coaches, I'm like, man, these guys have a chance.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Hey, safe travels to Orlando, and good luck to the entire group. That should be some good stories to come out of there.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And good luck to all the participants down there and all the parents. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Hey, thanks, Andy.
Thanks, guys.
That's Andy Kennedy from KATV. Yeah,
I've seen Bring It On. I know how it goes.
So we stayed in Tulsa this past weekend to play Oral Roberts, and where Tulsa is located Oral Roberts is located in South Tulsa. It's not very far from Southern Hills, which I've loved to be there this time of the year. And even though it was 60 where the track is open and you could go and play at the great course, but there's a really, really nice Marriott, and it included the Omaha men's basketball team and I would say a teeny bopper dance competition.
Like the youth,
the tiny people,
the pre-high school.
The moms were dressed like their daughters.
And that's why I asked Andy that. I've seen that before.
Yeah, I got on the elevator with a mom that was bedazzled, and her daughter got on, and they looked exactly the same, and I wondered who was dancing.
Mm-hmm.
They are intense. It's a big business, man. They like the because I was curious and I talked to everybody. This group was from somewhere in the Dallas Metroplex.
Yeah.
And they brought their own makeup crew for the girls.
Wow.
I guess they're really, really good. I mean, they had customized tracksuits. It was like a big deal.
This is the elite of the elite.
Yeah. But what he's going to, I think we all as kids used to watch it on ESPN.
On ESPN, yeah.
ESPN would carry the cheerleading competition.
Millard South was very good. So you asked what Millard schools be known for. Good dance teams. Millard South is really good. Millard North, as Andy said, have been very good as well. Millard West, I don't know if they've had their share or not. But yeah, Millard South, Millard North have been good.
It's a dance community. Everybody should be dancing.
They should.
Why is not everybody dancing?
Well, we've got a mayor, and we've got this This pastor who, no, okay, never mind.
John Lithgow, the mayor
John
of
Lithgow.
Maryland.
Mm.
All right.
Band
That will do
dancing.
it for the show. Thanks, everybody that tuned in, joined the conversation today. You found out from Nick, Jimmy, and Gary that Travis and Jason are brothers, and they're going to play in the Super Bowl.
You heard it here first.
I feel like we got to talk more about this.
Yeah,
this week.
we will. We got
Okay, good.
plenty of time.
Good.
This is a promo.
We will talk about Nebraska, Illinois basketball tomorrow morning. They play tonight at 6. When you rejoin us again on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Live from the Host Coffee